Hello everyone, this is your friend from Naruto Audio Fanfics, and we are back once again with a brand new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto became Hokage after reincarnation and built a power harem with Anko, Hinata&Tenten PART-1. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to hit the like button, thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel for more amazing Naruto fanfics like this. So without wasting any more time, let's start today's fanfic. Mitsuomi Kiryu, captain of Squad 11 of the Gote 13 and some called the embodiment of their motto Yaro. However, Mitsuomi is dead, his body riddled with wounds from his opponent is not, but the fear of the Quincy forfeited his life for this affront. Mitsuomi gasps and finds himself in a white void. Welcome Juchibantai Taicho Mitsuomi Kiryu, a soft voice says. Mitsuomi sits up, find himself, but a mist covers his lower region. Where am I? He says. The Sea of Transmigration, the voice replies, and Mitsuomi turns to see a young girl with long, white hair, violet eyes and a fragile-looking diminutive body. I am Kami, she greets, and Mitsuomi quirks an eyebrow. Kami is a lowly, but how? I thought the Soul King was the highest god, Mitsuomi says. One of three. Myself and Yami, but that's here nor there. I have brought you here because I need you help, Kami says. Why me? You should send me back. Retsu. My squad. The Soul Society need me, Mitsuomi states, but Kami shakes her head. The war is over. The Soul Society survived, Kami says. Mitsuomi touches his chest and sighs in relief. So my words helped, he says. Actually, Mayuri Kuratsuchi already knew that, Kami says, and Mitsuomi face palms. However, Retsu and Yakiru are well, and your daughter Yuki as well, she adds, and his breath hitches but a smile forms. So what do you need me to do, Kami-sama? Mitsuomi asks. Kami waves her hand and show a village. I will reincarnate you as a newborn in this village known as Konohagakure no Sato. This world uses chakra not dissimilar to Ryutsu. You will be reborn with your full powers and mind intact, but your powers will be limited until your body matures at 18, she explains. Shinigami and hollow powers? Mitsuomi asks, and Kami nods. Yes, but don't worry. Zetsue will be there, but the other won't. Seeing Ichigo helped in that regard. You should start to manifest your powers around 8 years, Kami replies, but slowly frowns. You'll also have to endure many hardships, Kami says, but Mitsuomi shakes his head. Whatever the world gives me, I'll take it. My will is stronger, Mitsuomi says. Kami softly smiles and raises her hands. Then save this world from the coming calamities, she says, and Mitsuomi glows and vanishes. I hope he brings me some accursed souls. I may give him a gift as well, another voice says. Kami turns to see the silhouette of her sister Yami. I will allow it. He will need everything at his disposal, she says. #Konohagakure. October 10th ## first person Mitsuomi, Naruto inner monologue #. My first memory of this new world were the deaths of my mother Kushina Uzumaki and my father Minato Namikaze, giving their lives to protect me. Kami was right about hardships, as I am now the Jinchuriki of the Kyubi no Yoko. Many people died on the night of my birth. Civilians, ninja, and the village was partially destroyed. A mass funeral was held for the people to grieve the fallen, but I couldn't for my parents being a newborn. The Sandaime retook the position of Hokage and set about rebuilding and deciding what to do with me. It was no different than my birth in the Rukin, as many called for my death, thinking that I was the Kyubi in human skin. A man called Danzo wanted me as a weapon, but Sarutobi shot him down. One clan head named Sume Inazuka wanted to adopt me, so did the wives of Fugaku Uchiha and Hiyashi Hyuga. However, Sarutobi decided against this, due to seeing it as it would give one clan power over the others. That was the first instance Sarutobi failed in my eyes, the second when he made a law to keep the younger generation pure of my status. However, Sarutobi completely underestimated the greed or grieve of others. Not 2 hours later, a deranged woman tried to kill me, but Anbu managed to subdue her, but the die was cast. Third person view age. Mitsuomi makes his way through what appears to a sewer towards a large gate. I really need to fix this, he muses, reaching the gate. Inside the Kyuubi sleeps but slowly opens their eye. Who are you? They say. Mitsuomi cups his chin in thought. Well, I'm your new host. Kushina's son Naruto Uzumaki, but in other circles Mitsuomi Kiryu, he says. Kyuubi opens both their eyes and raises their head. What? You should be some newborn brat, not an adult, they shout. Well, it's a long story, Mitsuomi says, and Kyuubi huffs, before being bathed in red light. I hate long stories, Kyuubi says, but the voice was female. From the red light emerges a beautiful woman with long dark hair and a pair of amber eyes with 6 whiskers on her cheeks. Her fox ears are a darker shade of gray and her 9 tails are a cool shade of white. She also wears an elegant Miko outfit with Geta sandals and tabi socks. Wow, you're like Yoruichi, Mitsuomi says, and Kyuubi raises her eyebrow but raises her fist. Bump fists with me and I'll learn what I need to know, Kyuubi says. Mitsuomi bumps her fist and both are bombarded by memories, from his battle on the sands of Hawako Mundo. The void of the Garganta and the ruins of Karakura town, to her enslavement by Madara Uchiha and sealing within Mito Uzumaki and his mother Kushina. Alright, I'll believe you for now and work with you, but change this place, Kyuubi says, and Mitsuomi slowly nods. It'll take a bit of time. I'm still a newborn. Kurama, Mitsuomi says. Kurama scoffs and folds her arms under her bust. Then get to growing ninjin, she comments. Mitsuomi shrugs his shoulders. I can only do so much, he says. First person Mitsuomi, Naruto inner monologue. After my first meeting with Kurama, I was eventually given to nursemaid named Hanako. She nursed me at the orphanage and took care of me. She is very kind person and not blinded by hatred like the others. She reminded me a lot of Orihime Inoue and my big sister Mirin. All of them saw me instead of the preconceived notions of others. However, by the time I was 2, Hanako was gone and replaced by an overbearing matron, who lost family in the attack and made my life hell for another 2 years. I was soon kicked out of the orphanage at 5 by the cruel matron, and it took Sarutobi a whole 3 weeks to find out I was living on the streets. He found me in the woods under guise of an old man and I shared my fish with him. He told me who he was and he found me an apartment in the red light district. A 5-year-old alone in a village who hates my existence, a recipe for disaster. The next 3 years I suffer beatings, overcharging of food and clothes, dirty looks and the like, but I had Kurama's help to know when to run and hide. Another place I found is the Forest of Death, but that only came from a pair of chunin tossing me inside. However, I would meet someone who would become someone very important to me. Third person Forest of Death age, 8 Naruto looks around with a sigh. This is just great, he thought, but stops and feels a presence. Turning around, a girl a little older than him was looking down on him. She has light brown, pupil-less eyes and black hair with a blue tint, styled in a short, spiky, fan ponytail. She wears brown-red t-shirt with bracelets, white shorts and fishnet leggings. What are you doing here, kid? She says, dropping down. Naruto rubs a smidge of dirt off his face. Some assholes threw me in here to die, he says. Yeah, some people are like that. The name's Anko Mitarashi, she says. Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto says. Anko chuckles as Naruto rubs his head. Come on. I'll lead you out of here, she says. You in the academy? Naruto asks and Anko nods, but he sees the saddened look in her eyes. Yep. I've got a goal in mind, Anko says. The pair soon make it out of the forest and into village proper. Look, 2 demons together. Why does Hokage-sama let them roam about? A few whisper and Anko clenches her fists. Seems she is a lot like you, Kurama comments and Naruto mentally nods. I would agree, he thought. Thanks for the help, Anko. I start the academy in 2 years. Maybe I'll see you, Naruto says and Anko chuckles. I'll probably see you more. You interest me, Anko says. Naruto heads off to his apartment. That forest would be a good place to start training, Kurama says. It would be. If I can use Ruo Shoheki. I can train in peace, Naruto thought. A month later, Naruto makes his way through the forest of death and finds a secluded spot. He finds hollow tree and takes a seat in Caesar position. Okay, let's begin, Naruto thought, and slowly calls on his chakra but also his Ryutsu. Slowly a wisp of blue chakra wafts off of Naruto, but it slowly slips into purple with a black tint. The tree shakes slightly as Naruto opens his eyes and they are glowing. Success, he says, but passes out. Oi, here again, a voice shouts. Naruto snaps awake and comes face to face with Anko, causing him to scream and smack his head on the wood. Oh, sorry about that, Naruto says, and Anko rubs her ears. Somebody brought you here again? Anko asks. Naruto wobbly gets to his feet but shakes his head. Nah. It's safer here than in the village, he offhandedly says. Anko arches an eyebrow but sees a similar look in his blue eyes that she has. So you have a goal in mind, Anko says. Naruto ruffles his blonde hair with a nod. Yeah. I want to become strong and then people will acknowledge me. What about you? He asks. Anko stays quiet for a few minutes but pulls her shirt to show a strange mark on her collarbone. I got this nasty hickey about a year ago from a bastard named Orochimaru. Because of that people think I am a traitor, but she says. Kind of like you, Kurama comments. Naruto follows Anko out the forest once again and part ways again, but it was start of a long-lasting friendship. First person view Naruto inner monologue. Anko and I continued to meet each other in Forest of Death, but I keep my training a secret, and the first thing I learned was the Kage Bunshin, which I learned from observing several Jonin training with a good bit of trial and error, but also the Henge Jutsu. Both paid immediate dividends for me as I was able to learn at a faster rate and I could buy food and clothes at normal prices. Sarutobi would come see me ever so often, so I adopted this loud and boisterous personality that pulls pranks for attention, or my clones would, proclaiming I would be Hokage and wearing an orange monstrosity to boot. This seems to satisfy him and he would often bring me things like practice shuriken and kunai for my eventual time in the academy. Kurama suggested I learn Fuinjutsu as well, and I used my clones to secure several old books on the subject. Anko eventually introduced me to her adopted older sisters Yugao Azuki and Kurenai Yuhi, also her friend Hana Inuzuka. On my front, other than Anko, I made one friend named Tenten around my age, as most followed their parents' blind hate for Kurama and saw me as a nuisance. Tenten was an orphan like me and I vaguely remembered her from the orphanage, but she remembered me. We became friends pretty quickly and I introduced her to Anko, becoming a trio of outcasts very quickly. Tenten didn't believe I was some monster and her adopted father didn't either, often allowing me to hide out in their shop if I needed. I also saved a girl named Hinata Hyuga from some bullies and again when she got lost on a snowy night. However, her family purposely keep her away from me as I am a low-class orphan, her caretaker told me when she out of earshot. 2 years quickly passed and life was not good for me as I suffered a severe attack on my 9th birthday, due in part to them breaking into my home and performing the deed. I awoke in the hospital with Anko and Tenten next to me, but Sarutobi was placating. Unfortunately, I gained a Chelsea smile scar on the right side of my face. Sarutobi told me the people were caught, but that didn't satisfy me, Tenten or Anko. The time soon came and I joined the academy, but unfortunately for me the teachers were biased and it didn't help that all the clan heirs and heiresses were in the same class. I could only fake grinning and bearing it for the next 6 years, but I made some more friends. Shikamaru Nara, Choji Akamichi, Shino Aburame, and a somewhat friendship with Kiba Inuzuka due in part to his sister Hana. The others of note in the class were Ino Yamanaka, Sakura Haruno, Sasuke Uchiha and Hinata. Sasuke saw himself as superior to everyone and all the girls except Hinata practically worshipped the ground he walked on. The village did so as well because his family was massacred by his brother Itachi, meaning they gave him any and everything he wanted. I was often the subject of ridicule due to my happy idiot persona, but that didn't matter to me. After seeing the blatant sabotage, I started to send a reinforced shadow clone in my place and train in the forest. I was taught the wrong stances for taijutsu, given blunted or overweighted shuriken and kunai. Even pitted against bigger kids in spars, much to the delight of one teacher named Mizuki. I purposely kept myself as the dead last of the class, answering tests somewhat right and showing off mediocre skills, but if I got pissed my true skill would come out and it was chalked it up as a fluke. However, I believe Shikamaru is seeing through my facade. Third person forest of death age, 12 Naruto stares at the katana in his hand with triumph. Finally, he thought. The sword was within a black sheath with a round guard, its hilt black and purple. It's good to hear your voice again. Mitsuomi or Naruto, a familiar voice says. Naruto smiles and touches his forehead to the sword. You can call me Naruto. Zetsue, he says and leaps onto a large branch and sits the sword in his lap. Naruto begins to meditate and slips into his mindscape, in front of a Gothic cathedral with a full moon in the cloudy night sky. A young woman with long red-white hair stands in front of him, her eyes mismatched with one ruby eye and the gold with a black sclera. You've changed some, Naruto says and Zetsue nods. Indeed. The hollow is merged with me it seems, Zetsue says, opening the doors. Many broken pews were about with black chains and stained glass window. In the center sits an elevated throne and upon sits Kurama with a collar around her neck with the paper seal etched upon it. So this is your true power? Kurama asks. Only the beginning, Zetsue says. Naruto rubs his blonde hair and touches his scar. She's right. The real training begins now. I need to regain my muscle memory and reaction speed, he says. Kurama glides down from her throne. Will you tell your little friends Anko and Tenten? She asks and Naruto frowns. I don't know how they will take it. I would hate to lose them, Naruto says, but Kurama flicks his forehead. They care about you. If you want their friendship or more, you need trust, Kurama says. Naruto sighs and exits his mindscape to create two clones to find Anko and Tenten, bringing them here. Naruto hops back down into clearing and slowly draws Zetsue, then slowly goes through several sword katas. You'll need get used to the weight again, Zetsue comments and Naruto nods. You also have your true Shikai and Bankai, she adds. What about the mask? Naruto asks, but Zetsue doesn't know. Oi Naruto-kun, what's the rush? Anko says, dropping down behind. Anko has grown much since their first meeting, burgeoning and womanly figure. Tenten soon arrives with her familiar twin panda buns and chocolate eyes. What's wrong, Naruto? She asks. Naruto sighs and sheathes Zetsue and fully turns to them. Anko. Tenten. We've been friends for a few years now. Your past with Orochimaru and you being abandoned by your mother. So it's time for me to tell you mine. All my secrets, he says. For the next half hour Naruto told Anko and Tenten everything. His time in the Soul Society, his meeting Kami, his rebirth into this world and being the Kurama's Jinchuriki. Anko stands with shadow covering her face, while Tenten stood in silent shock as Naruto stood clutching Zetsue in his hand and his eyes closed. I'll understand if you want nothing to do with me or don't believe me, but everything is true, Naruto says, but he is jerked forward into a tight embrace. You've been through some shit, Naruto or Mitsuomi. You have such a heavy burden to carry, Anko says and pulls back, so that means you're stuck with me, she adds, with a cheeky smile. Tenten approaches Naruto and hugs him as well. Same me with me, Foxy, she whispers. Thanks, Anko. Panda, Naruto says, but both pull his cheeks hard. Next time no secrets, both chide and Naruto nods rapidly. Good, now let's go get some dango and ramen, Anko says, and the trio take off out of the forest. Naruto, Tenten and Anko reach Ichiraku, but Anko breaks off to get some dango. Oi Tuki Jiji. 6 bowls of ramen, he shouts. 1 for me, Tenten says. Only 6, Naruto-kun, Ayame says, as Naruto takes a seat. Naruto has sealed Zetsue into a storage seal on his left hand. Just a quick meal, he says, thumbing his scar. Why don't you let me remove that scar? Kurama asks, but Naruto shakes his head. No, it's a reminder. Let them see their sins, Naruto thought. Tsuki places a bowl in front of Naruto and Tenten as Anko enters with a plate of dango. "Heya pops," she greets. The three outcasts of Konoha eat in silence. "So how's being a genin treating you?" Naruto asks. "It's boring. Luckily Hana is on my team, but we're still doing D-ranks missions. Our third member is a fangirl and our sensei is Ibiki from T&I. He decided to take a team for once," Anko replies. "So will you show your true strength?" Tenten asks, but Naruto shakes his head. "No. They'll think the demon is getting too strong. Once I graduate though, they can stick it," Naruto replies. "Hear hear," Anko says. Naruto finishes his 6 bowls but decides to order 6 more. "I gotta go Naruto-kun," Anko says and kisses his cheek, shocking the blonde. "I won't lose to her," Tenten says and kisses his scar-ridden cheek. Naruto touches his cheeks with a blush as Ayame giggles. "I think you three would be so cute together," she says, and Naruto blushes more. First person view Naruto inner monologue. Things were a bit awkward for a little while, but it slowly brought us closer and feelings developed, making the three of us a secret couple by the time I was 13. After reawakening Zetsue, I hit the ground running to relearn my taijutsu, kenjutsu, quicksword, shunpo and shukuchi. I decided to hold off on Kido, but the only ones that could be passed off as jutsu. Anko often came to watch me train and she showed me some chakra control exercises such as tree walking, water walking and leaf sticking. I finished all of the fuinjutsu available at the library, but the more advanced were saved for higher rank shinobi. Time at the academy was boring at best as teachers focused on history and glamorizing ninja life. Girls were taught flower pressing and skills not needed in the field. This angered Tenten as she wanted to be a powerful kunoichi and she often vented to me or Anko, but having the two of us helped her through it. She graduated a year before me and was put on a team with a fated obsessed boy named Neji Hyuga. Rock Lee and their sensei was Might Guy. I continued to maintain my dead last status, much to the annoyance of Iruka, another teacher, and would often scold me for it. However, it didn't matter to me as I knew what real ninja life was like. Sasuke was a constant thorn in my side, ready to embarrass me in front of his fangirls and teachers. Anko and Tenten told me that I would more than likely be on Sasuke's team with the top kunoichi, which unfortunately was Sakura, but Hinata was running neck and neck with her. Hinata has come along quite a bit, thanks in part to Anko, Kurenai, and she was gaining some confidence. It actually came about as Anko caught Hinata stalking me through the village and confronted the younger girl, telling her if she wanted me, that she needed to step it up and become strong because I belonged to her and Tenten. This lit a fire under Hinata and she gained some much needed confidence. Time continued to drift by and I could now use my shikai with ease, and I started on my bankai, which I did outside the village, and thanks to Kurama I could handle the strain put on my young body. I also tested my hollow abilities and learned it no longer, but the full mask wasn't forming. Instead my hair turns white and my left eye becomes hollow-like, with my hollow markings forming on my left arm and partially on my chest. I still needed to work on it as it puts even more strain on my body than my bankai. Another bit of good news is that Anko made Chunin and was working in T&I for Ibiki. #canon start age, 16 #. Naruto stares at himself as he makes the finishing touches for his graduation, now being a tall 5 feet 11 with a swimmer's body and a runner's legs. On his back were the tattoos of a large bellflower surrounded by snowflakes. Naruto slips a pair of black Anbu cargo pants with pockets on his thighs, tape around the bottoms to secure them into old work boots. A pair of arms snake around his waist in the form of one of his secret and soon-to-be public girlfriends, Anko. The Chunin now wears toeless black tights with gray short shorts, shin guards and closed-toe kunoichi boots. A long-sleeve mesh shirt and a gray trench coat with a purple interior and fingerless gloves. I can't wait to rip this off of you and ravage you. Kukuku. Hell, I bet Panda is ready too, Anko says, kissing his upper back. I know you both do, but we still need to be careful, Naruto says, taking her gloved hand and kissing it. It's about time you dropped this stupid mask, Kurama comments and Zetsue nods. I agree, but it was a cover. The number one rule of ninja is deception, Zetsue comments. Even so, people see him as this bumbling idiot, Kurama states. That's what I want. They will underestimate me. Right until I slid the knife into their spine, Naruto thought. He then slips a white, form-fitting undershirt and a dark blue, high-collar, sleeveless kung fu jacket with the Squad 11 symbol on the back and their flower imprinted on upper chest on the left and the symbol of Yaro on the right, all in white. I'll have some clones pack up my stuff and move it to your place, Naruto comments, slipping on some black gloves. That's fine. I got a full day ahead of me. Ibiki is slave driver, Anko comments, kissing his cheek and leaping out his window. Naruto slips on a 1/4 length black coat with sewn-on white sleeves and hood. Ready. Ready, he says. Don't you need to stop at the shop and see if your stuff is finished, Zetsue says, and Naruto freezes. You forgot again. The panda girl will kill you, Kurama says. Naruto leaves his apartment with clones dealing with his stuff, making his way to Higarashi's. Welcome to Higarashi's, a voice says, as Naruto opens the door. The source being his other secret girlfriend Tenten, sitting at the counter. Hey panda. No training, Naruto says, walking up. Tenten has grown into a beautiful young woman with her signature panda buns but adding white brocades and ribbons. She wears a long sleeve, high collar white blouse with maroon edges, black fingerless gloves, low heel sandals and maroon, puffy Hakama-style pants with the exposed parts covered in bandages. Dad needed to make a trip to the capital. So I got out of training with Guy-sensei, Tenten says but sees Naruto's clothes. So the gloves come off, Tenten says and Naruto nods, leaning over the counter and giving her a kiss. Yeah, so did your dad finish my stuff? Naruto asks. Tenten smiles with a nod and heads to the back, coming back with a form-fitting, high collar, lightweight tactical vest and a form-fitting, long-sleeve shirt with silver sleeves with bionic arm graphics on them. All of them are made very durable material from lightning. Though what's with the design on the arms, Tenten explains, sealing them into a scroll for him. Naruto takes the scroll and gives Tenten another kiss, something unique. See ya panda. Wish me luck, he says and she smiles. You don't need it, Tenten says and Naruto smirks, turning to leave and heading to the academy for the Genin exam. Hashtag Konoha Academy #everyone wears their Shippuden clothes. Naruto arrives at the academy and found the classroom was somewhat empty as Shikamaru was sleeping and Choji sitting next to him, and Naruto, Choji says. Naruto makes his way to his seat with nod as Shikamaru yawns, Mendokuse. Finally getting serious, he asks and Naruto makes a small gap with his fingers. A stampede of feet slowly gets louder and the door swings open as Sakura and Ino burst in. Naruto moves to another spot to avoid the fangirl plague, pulling up his hood but Sakura approaches. Naru Baka, why are you in those clothes? Trying to be like Sasuke-kun, Sakura shouts but Naruto ignores her, bobbing his head slightly. Sakura roughly shakes Naruto and he glances her way, pulling down his hood. You say something Sakura-chan, Naruto says and a certain one-eye pervert sneezes. Sakura glares angrily at Naruto but Sasuke walks in and her fangirl senses go off, causing the girls to flock to the Uchiha heir. Sasuke walks with his heir about him and takes his seat but the fangirls fight for the seats on his left and right. He wears a white zippered, high collar, short sleeve shirt and blue wrist warmers. Dark blue pants, over which hangs a blue cloth that covers him from his stomach to his knees, which he secures with a black obi. Kiba, Shino, Hinata and several other students enter but Hinata notices Naruto's new look. Good morning Naruto-kun, Hinata says and Naruto looks up, with a smile and nod. Are you gonna take Kunoichi of the year? Naruto asks and Hinata slowly nods, taking her seat next to him. Akamaru comes up in Naruto's leg as Kiba walks up with hands behind his head, so dead last what's with the new look, he says. However, before Naruto could answer, Iruka and Mizuki enter the classroom. Alright, take your seats. First, I want to congratulate everyone for making it this far and by day's end. You should be proud, ninja of Konohagakure, Iruka says, his eyes glancing to Naruto. Iruka starts to take roll as Mizuki hands out the written test, but Naruto sighs internally. Again with genjutsu, he thought, quietly dispelling it. He answers 70% the test right and takes a nap until the others were finished. He has serious negative emotions towards you, Kurama comments, and Naruto cracks open one eye. He must want something, Naruto thought. Eventually Mizuki came to pick up the tests and Iruka leads them outside for the weapons accuracy test. Iruka calls everyone by their last names, with various degrees of success, but Sasuke got the most with a 10 out of 10. Hinata got 9 out of 10, Ino taking 7 out of 10, and Sakura got 5 out of 10. Naruto, Iruka shouts. Naruto approaches with a glance to Iruka and picks up the kunai but spies they are blunted slightly. He picks up the 10 shuriken and whips them forward, striking the dummy in the head, heart, and 5 hitting the body. The kunai next, but only 4 hit, causing everyone to laugh. Wow, dead last, Kiba says. Naruto ignores them but feels the disappointment from Iruka. You hit what counts, Kurama says. Iruka makes his marks and leads everyone back inside for the final portion of the exams. Mizuki and Iruka sit at a desk and everyone lines up to perform the Academy 3. Everyone goes through and some gain their Hitai 8 and some fail. Naruto steps forward as his name is called by Iruka. Alright, Naruto. Henge, Iruka says, and Naruto transforms into perfect replica of his toughest opponent. Mizuki and Iruka flinch at the imposing Kenpachi Zaraki as Naruto returns to normal. Where did you see that? Iruka asks. A book I read, Naruto says, and Iruka slowly nods, clearing his throat. Alright, Kawarimi, Iruka says, and Naruto substitutes with Mizuki, shocking the silver-haired teacher, but Naruto could the hate in his eyes. Okay, now the Bunshin no Jutsu, Iruka says, and Mizuki grins internally. No way the demon can that, Mizuki says, but his breath hitches, as 4 Naruto were standing in front of them. Well, Naruto, you pass, Iruka says, and Naruto picks up his Hitai 8 with a glance to Mizuki. Naruto steps out of class and many were aghast as Naruto was holding his Hitai 8, how hell could he pass, some thought. Those that passed made their way back to their classroom for the last time and waited for Iruka and Mizuki. How the hell did you pass, Naruto? Kiba shouts. Naruto looks up with a blank look on his face, but his happy idiot persona comes out. I should, Kiba. I want to be Hokage Dadbao, he says. Kiba's right. Naru Baka. Sakura chimes in. The happy idiot persona drops and his blank look returns. Shinobi are known for deception, Sakura, he says, not adding Chan to her name. So the attention-seeking, prank-playing and screaming about Hokage was an act, Shikamaru comments, shocking the others. Come on, Shikamaru. No way Naruto could pull that off, Ino says. Sasuke stares at Naruto for a moment. Maybe the Dobi did, he thought. Iruka and Mizuki enter the classroom and everyone quiets down. Once again, congratulations on passing, Iruka says and clears his throat. Okay, first, before announcing teams. Our rookie shinobi of the year is Sasuke Uchiha. Iruka starts and the fangirls squeal. Kunoichi of the year goes to Hinata Hyuga, he adds. Naruto softly smiles with a sigh of relief as Iruka goes over the teams. TEAM 7 will be Sasuke Uchiha, Hinata Hyuga, and Naruto Uzumaki, Iruka says, and fangirls shout in protest. TEAM 8 is Kiba Inuzuka, Sakura Haruno, and Shino Aburame. Team 9 is still in commission and Team 10 is Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka, and Choji Akamichi. You senseis will you hear tomorrow at 7 am, Iruka states. Sakura, Kiba and Ino were downcast at the notion of not being on Sasuke or Hinata's team, while Hinata was happy to be on Naruto's team. Mizuki dismisses everyone with a fake smile on his face. Damn it. I needed the demon to fail to get me the scroll, he thought. Naruto 1 second. Mizuki says and Naruto stops. Follow me for a minute, Mizuki adds. He leads Naruto the roof of the academy but doesn't notice Naruto making some hand signs. What is it, Mizuki-sensei? Naruto asks, but Mizuki keeps his back to Naruto. Well, I wanted to congratulate you on passing and wondered if you wish to the secret exam and attain entrance into Anbu, Mizuki says. Naruto tilts his head with a fake look of happiness. Really, Mizuki-sensei? How would I do that? He shouts. Mizuki has a wide smirk on his face and slowly turns. Oh, it's simple. All you have to do is steal the sacred scroll of sealing and bring it to the western forest. The Anbu commander will be waiting for you, he says. Really, the scroll in Gigi's office? Sure, I can do that, no problem, Naruto says, but his look changes. But I wonder if you're lying, Mizuki-sensei, he adds, causing Mizuki to freeze. What? Naruto, I am not lying, Mizuki says but gasps as Naruto has closed the gap between them. No, you are. A demon can tell. Right? Naruto says and Mizuki gasps, back jumping in a sneer forms. So you are smart, demon. Too bad. I'll just have kill you and steal the scroll myself. Pinning the theft on you, Mizuki sneers. Shadows cover Naruto's eyes but he blinks in front of Mizuki and drills a punishing body blow to Mizuki. He spews some spittle from his mouth and staggers forward, collapsing to the ground. Damn, Naru-kun. I thought you would do more than one punch, Anko says. On the railing and next to her was Anbu Neko. Naruto shrugs his shoulders as Neko cuffs Mizuki. Hokage-sama will want to speak to you. He was watching, she says. Naruto rolls his neck with a sigh. Fine, he says, and Neko vanishes with Mizuki. I wonder what the old man wants, Anko says, and Naruto pokes her cheek. To know why I am hiding my strength. Good to know our seal works, Naruto says. Yeah, Anko says and grasps his shoulder, vanishing into a leaf shunshin. Hashtag Hokage Tower hash. Hiruzen Sarutobi has many failures in his long life, his student Orochimaru committing unspeakable horror. His successor dying far too young and the failure to keep his son safe from the forces within his own village. The Sandame sighs and smokes his pipe as a leaf shunshin fills the room, revealing the boy in question. Thank you, Anko-chan. You are dismissed, Hiruzen says. I want her to stay, Gigi, Naruto says, and Hiruzen looks the boy in the eye but slowly shakes his head. Anko bows and heads for the door as Naruto stood at attention in front of Hiruzen. I wish I could be the fly on the wall, she thought. First I want say congratulations on passing the Genin exams. I'm proud of you, my boy, Hiruzen says, but Naruto remains quiet and the older man clears his throat. So Naruto-kun, why would you hide your true strength? Hiruzen states and places his pipe down, but Naruto remains silent once again. How did you know Mizuki was trying trick you? Hiruzen questions. Naruto keeps his eyes closed but points to his Chelsea scar. I know about everything. My burden and my parents, he says, and Hiruzen's eyes widen. Why, you've spoken to the Kyuubi. You can't believe it's lies, Hiruzen says, and Naruto opens his eyes. Kurama is not an it. She is just much a victim of that night as I am. She was being controlled by Rouge Uchiha, Naruto states. Hiruzen leans back in his chair and relights his pipe. Naruto-kun, he starts. Don't say you're sorry. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of one orphan boy. Despite being the son of such a revered Hokage, Naruto says, and Hiruzen sighs. However, to answer your question, if the populace of Konoha knew my real strength, I would have died on 9th birthday, Naruto adds. Hiruzen rises from his seat and heads to the window. We were vulnerable from the attack. I made a lot to protect you but it failed, he says. You put your faith in the people but that failed. I kicked out of an orphanage at 5. Overcharged for food, clothes, everything. Teachers sabotaged me and students ridiculed me. I have to play this happy-go-lucky idiot just to survive, but that changes now, Naruto says. Naruto-kun, unfortunately I won't be able to give you your inheritance from your parents. Until you make 18 or chunin, but I can transfer some of the money into an account for catching a traitor, Hiruzen says, but Naruto was ignoring him. Suddenly a throwing knife shoots from Naruto's left sleeve and he flings it into the wall. It shimmers and a man with blank mask marked Ne collapses with the knife embedded into his shoulder. Hiruzen clutches his pipe as his Anbu appear to apprehend the Ne. Danzo, he thought. How did you know, Naruto-kun? Hiruzen says, and Naruto taps his head. I'm very observant. It's how I learned the Kage Bunshin, Naruto says. Hiruzen's eyes widen but thinks for a moment. You used it to pass, he says, and Naruto nods. It's impossible for me to make a normal Bunshin. I'm a Jinchuriki and an Uzumaki, Naruto says, and Hiruzen sighs with a puff of smoke. Naruto bows and turns on his heels. Oh, I am moving in with Anko. By your leave, Gigi, he says, stepping out. Hiruzen turns his gaze back to window. I'll need to contact Jiraiya and Tsunade, but the latter will tough, he thought, retaking his seat and setting about to write 2 letters. Naruto roof hops towards Anko's apartment complex. Will you start to trust the old man? Kurama asks, but Naruto sighs. It will be a while before I can, but he trying, Naruto thought, but his eyes narrow, changing his direction towards one of the training grounds. Naruto lands in a secluded training ground as 3 blank mask Anbu appear. You are to come with us, one says. Naruto rolls his neck several times with his back to them but raises a ram sign. Who are you? He says, turning to them fully. Our master has need of you. Come with us, the second says. That's not shady at all, Zetsue comments, and Naruto narrows his eyes. The third steps forward and draws her tanto. You will come with us or Mitarashi and Higurashi will meet a horrible fate, she says. Background music. M24 scried anime. Suddenly 3 Anbu were pinned to the ground as Naruto stands with glowing eyes and a purplish-black aura surrounding his form. Naruto slowly steps forward as the crushing aura makes the air heavier and heavier. Your master must be tired of living to threaten Anko and Tenten, he says. The third Anbu gasps as the visage of a huge fox and dragon were behind Naruto. He kneels down to one knee and removes the mask from the woman's face. You are experiencing fear. They did not fare as well, Naruto says, and cancels his Ryutsu. The Anbu glances right and left, but her eyes widen as both were dead. Tell your master. If he harms anyone that I care about, he will wish he died as a child, Naruto says, turning on his heels. The Anbu springs to feed her and reaches for her tanto, but a throwing knife was drilled into her throat. Forget it. I'll tell them myself, Naruto says, but arches an eyebrow as all 3 Anbu burst into blue flames. No secrets it seems, Kurama says, and Naruto nods, vanishing. Song ends. In an unknown location, a frail, old man with black, shaggy hair, and his right eye was bandaged with an X-shaped scar on his chin. He wears a white shirt, with a black robe over the top of it covering from his feet to just over his right shoulder, and holds a cane. He stands on a small bridge as a blank mask Anbu appears and kneels before him. Danzo-sama. 55 was found. Also 33. 22 and 88 failed all 3 Kia, she reports. Danzo grips his cane with an unreadable look on his face. I see. The boy may be more powerful than we realized. Assign Sai to observe him during the Genin test, he orders, and the Anbu vanishes. Danzo turns on his heels with a clank of his cane. I wonder, Hiruzen, did you know? No matter. I will have the boy, he thought. Naruto opens the door of Anko's apartment and a small bark greets him. Kneeling down, Naruto picks up Anko's puppy Kuroshiro. She is a Shiba Inu with black fur and a white underbelly. Kuroshiro licks Naruto's face with happy noises as he makes his way inside. Boring day, huh? He muses. Naruto places her down to slips off his coat, boots, gloves, and fixes Kuroshiro some food and water. Naruto finds his room and unpacks what little things he had from his place. The main door slams open and shuts as Naruto comes out his room, to an upset Anko. Kuroshiro trots up and Anko kneels down to give her scritches. That bastard works for him. He was gonna get you to steal the scroll. Frame you and run to the bastard, she hisses. Naruto approaches and pulls Anko up into a hug. He'll get his one day, he says. Yeah, because I will kill him, Anko says, and the pair pull apart. Kuroshiro goes back to her food as Naruto sighs. I ran into some blank mask Anbu. They tried and failed to intimidate me into going with them, he says, showing her the mask. Danzo Shimura. Yugao Ne told me about him. He's an elder and bad news, Anko comments, plopping on the sofa. Naruto grabs 2 instant ramens and fills them with hot water. I bet he is, he says, placing them down and taking a seat. So Naru-kun. When does An-chan get to play? Anko says, crossing her legs. Naruto picks up the ramen and hands the other to Anko. Once I make chunin but heavy petting is allowed, he says, and Anko giggles. So who's on your team? Anko says, and Naruto slurps all the noodles in his cup. Tem and Hinata. Sensei is unknown. Iruka didn't say. Naruto, drinking down his broth. Anko hands the other cup to him, more than likely Kakashi. 9A has Team 8 and Smokestack Team 10, she says, as Kuroshiro tries to get on the sofa. Any pointers? Naruto asks, helping Kuroshiro up. Anko scratches her pup's head with a smirk. Nope, she says, and Naruto puffs his cheeks. That's actually better. I can finally test myself on a real person, Naruto says, and retakes his seat. Kuroshiro moves between the 2 pariahs for a night of scritches and belly rubs from her mommy and daddy. #next day hash. Naruto yawns as he makes his way to the academy, dressed as he was the day before but leaving his jacket behind. Kuroshiro was walking next to him with a few curious sniffs but keeps close to Naruto. The resident pariah glances around as a few people were out and some were giving dirty looks, but the Hitai tied to his right arm dissuaded their behavior. Naruto reaches the academy gates and creates a clone to take Kuroshiro home. Be good today, he says, scratching her and squishing her chubby cheeks. He heads inside with a pop of his knuckles. Will you bring me out today? Zetsue asks. Naruto shakes his head. No. He's a comrade, he thought, reaching the classroom. Good morning, Naruto-kun, Hinata says, and Naruto smiles with a small wave, taking his seat next to her. Sasuke was brooding near them as the fangirls that passed were crowding around him. Shikamaru and Choji soon arrive, followed by Kiba and Akamaru, causing the pupper to run to Naruto, and he removes his glove to give scritches. You have a dog, Naruto? Kiba asks, and Naruto looks up with a tilt of his head but thought a moment. My friend does. She's a Shiba Inu named Kuroshiro, Naruto says, and Kiba tilts his head this time. Kuroshiro. My sister's friend Anko has a dog named that, Kiba says, and Naruto nods. The door slides open as several Jonin enter, but 2 stand out. One is a beautiful woman with fair skin of a slender build. She has long black untamed hair reaching her upper back, and very unique eyes that are red in color, with an additional ring in them. She wears makeup consisting of red lipstick and purple eyeshadow. Her outfit consists of a red mesh armor blouse with only the right sleeve visible. Overall, this is very broad material which resembles bandages with a pattern on it similar to those of rose thorns. Her hands and upper thighs are also wrapped in bandages, and she wears the Konoha forehead protector and regular shinobi sandals. I'm Kurenai Yuhi. Team 8 with me, Kurenai says, but gives Naruto a small wave. Akamaru whines but follows Kiba, Sakura and Shino out as the Pinkett was trying and failing to get Sasuke's attention. The other is tall man, with brown eyes, olive skin, short black spiky hair, and a beard. His clothing consists of the standard Konoha ninja uniform with the sleeves rolled up halfway, flak jacket, regular shinobi sandals, and Hitai 8. He also wears a sash that had the kanji for fire marked on it around his waist, a pair of black bangles, and bandages wrapped around the arms of his sleeves. I'm Asuma Sarutobi. Team 10 with me, Asuma says, and Shikamaru, Choji and Ino follow him out. The other genin leave with their team leaders and leave Sasuke, Hinata and Naruto, but time starts to tick by. 1 hour and followed by a second hour. Not a good first impression, Zetsue says, and Naruto mentally nods. The door slides open and a tall man with gravity-defying silver hair and wearing standard Konoha attire enters. My first impression of you is I think you're boring. You. Meet on the roof in 5, he says and puffs into smoke. Sasuke rises from his seat and heads to the roof with the others. Awaiting them was their sensei. Take a seat and let's give your introductions. Likes, dislikes, hobbies and goals. My name is Kakashi Hatake. I like many things and dislike many things. My hobbies are something you don't need to know. Same with my goals, he says, his Hitai covering his left eye. My name is Hinata Hyuga. I like flour pressing and cinnamon buns. Dislikes are uninformed people. My goal is unify my family under one banner, Hinata states. Alright, Blondie, Kakashi says, and Naruto sighs. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I like many things and dislike the time it takes for my instant ramen. Ignorant people. My goal is to become Hokage and make several people proud of me, Naruto states. Sasuke scoffs with a brooding look on his face. I highly doubt that Dobi. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I hate a lot of things and I don't particularly like anything. What I have is not a dream but an ambition. I will make it a reality. I will restore my clan and kill a certain man, he says. Kakashi stares between his genin. You all are unique with varying goals. Now then, let's head to training ground 7 for your true genin test, he says, confusing all three. A true genin test. Kakashi sensei, Hinata asks, and Kakashi smiles. Yes. All genin go through this test and it only has a 66% passing rate. Now follow me, Kakashi says. Training ground -7 #. The training ground is very large but 3 wooden stumps driven into the ground, that is the scene the 3 were greeted with. Kakashi places a scroll on the ground and unseals it, revealing 3 bento boxes and a clock. Kakashi then reaches in his pocket for 2 bells. The test is simple. You have until noon to take these bells from me, he starts. Kakashi sensei, there are only 2 bells and 3 of us, Hinata says. Kakashi holds up the bells as they chime, very observant. Only 2 of you will pass and the one that left with be sent back to the academy. Now you can use anything to take these bells. Come at me with the intention of killing me, he explains. It seems to be an underlying motive to this test, Zetsue says, and Naruto slips his gloves back on. Start, Kakashi shouts and all 3 vanish. Well, they know how to hide, he thought. Sasuke was in a tree and Hinata in the underbrush, while Naruto was hovering above Kakashi within his Ruo Shoheki. How do you want to play this? Zetsue asks, and Naruto squats down. From what I have observed, teams are 4-person cells. Jonin and 3 genin, Naruto thought but tilts his head. Teamwork, Naruto notes and vanishes. Hinata stays prone on the ground as Sasuke decides to make his move. The Uchiha Saiyan grabs several kunai and shuriken and flings them towards Kakashi, but the Jonin dodges and reaches in his pouch for a orange book. Sasuke grits his teeth and drops down as Kakashi turns to him. So you're the first. I thought Naruto would be the first to act, Kakashi notes. I am nothing like that, Dobi, Sasuke says. Kakashi turns a page in his book. Say that after you have a bell, he says. Sasuke lowers his stance as Kakashi stands with his book, before the Uchiha shoots forward. At same Hinata was watching, but a hand grasps her shoulder, but before she could another hand covers her mouth. Hinata, it's me, Naruto says and removes his hand. Hinata calms down and sighs. Kakashi sensei is quite strong, she says. He is, but I know the secret of this test. Naruto starts and Hinata furrows her brow. It's teamwork. He wants us to work as a team, he adds. So what do we do? Hinata asks. Naruto observes Sasuke fighting well against Kakashi with traps and good instincts. I'll focus his attention on me. Once Sasuke retreats, Find him and tell him the meaning of the test, he says. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu, Sasuke shouts, firing a large fireball. This actually catches Kakashi off guard and forces him underground, a high-level Kaden jutsu. This kid, he thought. Sasuke looks around for Kakashi but hands grab his ankles and drags him underground. Doden. Shinju Zanshu no Jutsu, Kakashi says, rising from the ground. Sasuke glares at Kakashi as he takes his book out again. You are skilled Sasuke but not skilled enough, Kakashi muses, walking off. Background music. Baki Ost, fixed day. Kakashi reaches another clearing but finds Naruto waiting for him. Do you want to try your hand, Naruto? He says. Naruto pulls on his gloves with a tilt of his head. I do, but I know meaning of your test, he says, and Kakashi quirks an eyebrow. It's teamwork, Naruto says. Kakashi closes his book with an eye smile. It seems you are a bit smarter than your records show, but not much, he says. Naruto slips into a basic boxing stance but starts bouncing on his toes. This causes Kakashi to narrow his visible eye. Shinobi's best skill is deception, Naruto says, and closes the gap with 3 snap jabs. Kakashi backpedals but his right sleeve has a gash on it. He's fast, he thought, but Naruto presses once again but with a high knee. Kakashi ducks under the knee but as Naruto lands, snaps his leg back for a kick and Kakashi blocks with his forearm. And strong, Kakashi thought, grabbing the leg and tossing Naruto away. The blonde somersaults into a crouch but rushes forward in a low tackle but Kakashi sidesteps him. However, Naruto vanishes and grabs Kakashi from behind into a German suplex but Kakashi substitutes with a log. You are nothing like your profile, Naruto, Kakashi says. Naruto rolls his neck with a sigh. Thanks, Kakashi-sensei, he says, bouncing on his toes once again. Kakashi drops down and beckons Naruto forward as the two engage in a bout of fisticuffs. From the trees, Sasuke watches in jealousy. How is the Dobi so skilled, he thought. Kakashi back jumps from Naruto but he closes gap. Hinata, Naruto shouts. Hinata bursts from the tree line with a Juken strike ready but Sasuke bum rushes her aside to grab a bell from Kakashi. Naruto arcs a jab towards Sasuke but Kakashi catches it as Sasuke jumps away but Kakashi feels the force behind it. Hinata collects herself as the timer goes off. We failed, she says. Song ends. Naruto glares at Sasuke as they make their way back to the 3 stumps and Hinata has a look of sadness. Kakashi clears his throat. Well, as things went. Sasuke achieved the objective by getting a bell. He starts and Sasuke smirks. However, he ignored the true objective. Kakashi states and Sasuke furrows his brow. Naruto actually knew what the test meant. It was teamwork. So in essence Naruto allowed Sasuke to gain a bell, he adds. So what will happen? Will you take Sasuke-san as a solo member? Hinata says but Kakashi smiles. No, you 3 will get a provisional pass. So meet me here tomorrow at 9 am for a first mission, Kakashi says and vanishes into a leaf shunshin. Hinata sighs in relief and glances to Naruto and he nods with a smile but Sasuke scoffs. Don't hold me back, Sasuke says, walking off. Naruto sighs and rubs his forehead. Are you alright, Hinata? He asks. Yes. Your plan worked but Sasuke-san, Hinata says but Naruto sighs. Yeah, but we passed and we can try to become a team, Naruto says and Hinata nods. I should return and inform father of my passing, Hinata says, bowing and excusing herself. Naruto sighs but looks up to the blue sky. You can come out now, he says. So you did sense him, Kurama comments. A young man with short, straight black hair, and dark eyes which contrast with his translucent-looking pale skin. He wears a short black and gray jacket with red straps, a high-collared midriff shirt, black pants, shinobi sandals and gloves with his index and thumb fingers exposed. Your skills are impressive, Sai says but finds himself pinned to a tree, with Naruto's forearm across his throat. Your master sent you like those other 3, Naruto says, but Sai keeps his fake smile. Well, you seem more than like to relay my message. Tell him if he harms anyone that I care about. Well, he guess how the story ends, Naruto adds, releasing Sai. The Nei operative rubs his neck but vanishes into Shunshin. You're making enemies kinda quickly, but I like it, Kurama comments. Naruto rubs his wrists and vanishes with Shunpo. This master is the one to start this fire, he thought. Hashtag NeiHQ hash. Sai kneels one knee before Danzo and relays his report on Naruto. He is dangerous, Danzo-sama, he says. Danzo grips his cane with a narrowed eye. Indeed. He is nothing like his profile at Academy. His censor abilities is on par with his mother, he states. Should he be dealt with? Sai says. No. The boy is our Jinchuriki. His power is needed. Observing him would be detrimental, Danzo comments and turns on his heels. Sai rises and follows his master. What about the Mitarashi or Higurashi girls? They can be used to force him into Nei, he states. No. Hiruzen would suspect something. Mitarashi may have been Orochimaru's student, but she has powerful allies. No, for now we will stay in the shadows and wait for our time, Danzo says. Naruto currently finds himself doing push-ups in his shared apartment, but loud moans fill the room. He silently counts off as the moans keep coming and coming. Anko, stop, Naruto shouts. She is sitting on his back with a cheeky grin on her face. Sorry, it's motivation, Anko coos. Naruto lays flat with a sigh as Kuroshiro comes up to lick his face. Some motivation, he thought. So what has Kakashi got you or your clone doing today? Anko asks, getting off his back. Same thing we've done the past month. D ranks in team building, but he has time to give Sasuke extra training, Naruto states, and Anko scoffs. Luckily you and Hinata can spar and train with one another, Anko says, squishing Kuroshiro's cheeks. Naruto gets to his feet with a pop of his joints. Don't I know it? She's trying a new style of jukin in secret and I'm her test dummy, he says, slipping on a shirt. Anko pulls Kuroshiro into her lap on the floor. Would you consider her your number 3 after me and Panda? She says, and Naruto arches an eyebrow. Hinata's a great person, but no way her clan would allow that, Naruto says. Never know. You are the son of Hokage and heir to a founding clan. When the old man announces it, those old fools will want the CRA on you, Anko states, and Naruto scoffs. Even if Gigi announces it, do you think it will make up for 16 years of pain and suffering? No, they won't see me. They'll deny it, but then they'll say, oh, he's the son of our revered Hokage. Let's treat him like Sasuke to get his riches and power, Naruto says, getting onto the sofa. Anko places Kuroshiro down and settles onto of him, running her fingers along his Chelsea scar. Do you think I compare to your old girlfriend? Anko asks, her voice soft. Naruto pulls on her cheek with a smile. You and Retsu are neck and neck, but you got the edge, he says. Damn right, Anko says. Retsu saw me at my most vulnerable and her love brought me back from abyss, Naruto comments. Anko settles on Naruto and moves his head to suck on his neck, and Chan needs you, she coos, her stocking-covered leg rubs on his lower half. Naruto groans as Anko licks on his neck but moves to his mouth, capturing his lips. She licks his lower lip for access and Naruto opens his mouth, allowing their tongue to swirl around one another. The pair continue to make out for the next few minutes, but the doors gets knocked on and opened, revealing Hana and her triplets. Oya, am I interrupting? Hana says. Anko pulls off of Naruto with a glare and sigh. The mood has passed, she says. Kuroshiro runs up to the Heimaru brothers and greets them, and they greet her too. I came to check on Kuroshiro, Hana says. Anko climbs off of Naruto and he sits up. How's Kiba been doing? He asks. Complaining. He wanted to be on Hinata's team. Kurenai has her hands full. Sakura is very weak. She was actually dieting, Hana explains. Fangirls. Nai will break her of that, Anko comments. Naruto tilts his head back with a groan. Another boring mission day. Kakashi is really boring, He muses. Mom says the council is pushing him to only train the last loyal Uchiha, Hana comments and Anko scoffs. I'm amazed Hinata's dad hasn't raised a stink about it, Anko comments. One of the Heimaru brothers approaches Naruto for scritches and the blonde obliges. Things have changed some. Since she made Kunoichi of the year and defeated her sister, but her cousin still hates her guts and overdoes it in spars, he says. Hee. You might get crack at him in the Chunin exams in a few months, Hana comments and Anko giggles. Why don't we take Kuroshiro for a walk and go see Nai and see how the other half live, Anko suggests and Naruto slowly nods. The group exit Anko's apartment and head for Kurenai's place, their pups walking in front of them. They soon reach Kurenai's apartment complex, but she was not home, so they decided to head to the training grounds. What are you doing here, Naruto? Kiba barks. Kuroshiro runs to Akamaru and they greet one another. Sakura was glowering Naruto, but Shino gives him a friendly greeting as Kurenai approaches. Kakashi has dismissed already, Kurenai asks and Naruto ruffles his hair. Yeah, just some D ranks and team building, Naruto says and Kurenai blinks in shock. That's it. I've started on chakra control exercises and building their reserves, Kurenai says, incredulously. Well, I taught him that stuff and he's helping Hinata. You know Kakashi is gonna be forced to train the Uchiha, Anko comments. Sasuke-kun needs that training. Naru Baka is the dead last and doesn't deserve any training, Sakura starts but Anko grabs her by the red vest. Listen up, bitch. My Naru-kun is so much stronger than Sasuke. He's trains harder than anyone. Even when teachers taught him wrong and kicked him out of class for no reason. So before you stupidly call him dead last. Know all the facts, Anko shouts, before pushing the pinket back. Sakura glares at Anko but Kurenai shoots her look and she back down, but the ruby-eyed beauty turns her attention to her surrogate little sister. My Naru-kun, Kurenai says and Anko freezes but Kurenai pats her shoulder. I'm happy, she adds. How about a spar, Naruto? Kiba says and Naruto shrugs his shoulders but nods and Kiba grins. Kurenai-sensei, can you be our ref? Kiba says, stretching. Naruto rolls his neck and does the same, just your taijutsu. I don't have a ninken, he says and slips into his boxing stance. Hajime, Kurenai shouts. Kiba lunges at Naruto in a lowered stance but arcs up with a claw strike. Naruto backsteps and avoids the strike but snaps Kiba with right jabs, forcing the feral boy back. Danger senses went off in Kiba's head and narrowly dodges a left straight from Naruto. Shit, that could have knocked me out, Kiba thought and back jumps. Beast mimicry. All fours jutsu, Kiba shouts and becomes more feral. Naruto starts to bounce on his toes as a small standoff forms as both look for an opening but Kiba breaks it with a faster low tackle. Naruto closes the gap between them and clips Kiba with an uppercut. Kiba backpedals and rubs his chin with a growl at Naruto but rushes the blonde. For the next 3 minutes Naruto dodges Kiba with what seems like ease and infuriating the latter. Stop dodging and hit me, Kiba shouts. Naruto's eyes narrow and he steps forward, connecting with a punishing left straight and Kiba flies back. Akamaru barks loudly and Kiba snaps awake to catch himself, huh. I'm flying, he thought, stepping forward but his legs give out. Damn little brother. Naruto knocked your lights out, Hana says, kneeling next to him and Kiba gasps, his eyes flickering. Sorry about that, Kiba, Naruto says and squats down to his level. Kiba sighs and rubs his head. I asked for that. So I guess you were right about deception, he says. Yeah, if I want to be Hokage. I need to be strong, Naruto says, rising to his feet. Kiba gets to his feet and raises his fist. Well, I look forward to our next spar, he says. Naruto smiles and bumps fists with Kiba. Same here, he says. Kurenai dismisses her team and leaves Anko, Naruto and Kurenai. So how's Pinky been doing? Anko asks, as they leave the training ground. She has potential but it wasted. The academy has become a breeding ground for fangirls, Kurenai says, shaking her head. Preach. Our team could have been so much better if not for Aika, but Hana and I are Chunin, Anko comments. Naruto. What sort of taijutsu that was? Your footwork was impressive, Kurenai asks, as they arrive at Dango shop and taking a booth. It's a self-taught style. I observed several styles and read books. Taking different styles that suited me. So I guess you could call it a mixed style. Even if copied, it would not be prudent as you need to have the body for it, Naruto explains. Planning for the Uchiha already, Anko says, and Naruto tilts his head but slowly nods. The server brought several orders of dango with some sake for their ladies and soda for the blonde. Asuma soon walked in and made his way to their table, giving Naruto a curt nod and taking a seat next to Kurenai. How's it going, smokestack? Anko chirps and Asuma rolls his eyes, snatching a dango from Kurenai's plate. Asuma glances to Naruto and sizes up the blonde but sees the scar on his face. I got this when I was 9. Some villagers and a disgraced Jonin broke into my apartment, Naruto states. Asuma lights a cigarette and takes a slow drag. Did they catch who did it? He asks, after blowing some smoke. They did, but those assholes on the council called for reduced sentences and claimed that were no eyewitnesses. The civilians were locked up for a few days but the Jonin was executed, Anko comments. I'm used to it. Konoha will not give me a fair shake as a Jinchuriki, Naruto say, causing Asuma and Kurenai to widen their eyes. You know about your burden? Kurenai asks and Naruto slowly nods. Mizuki blabbed it after trying to get me to steal the sacred scroll of sealing, Naruto explains. I had fun with him, Anko says, with a sadistic giggle, and Naruto shakes his head. Anko finishes her dango and the pair excuse themselves. Catch you later, Nine-A. Smokestack, she says. Goodbye, Kurenai-sensei. Asuma-sensei, Naruto says. So what now? Wanna go see Panda? Anko asks, as she takes his hand. Naruto rolls his neck and squeezes her hand. She doesn't want me to see her, sensei. So wanna see something cool, he says. Sure, Anko says and creates a clone to take Kuroshiro home, but Naruto sends a clone to see if Tenten is done and invite her. #Forest of Death hash. Anko and Naruto drop down in a clearing. So what cool thing will you show me? She says. Something to do with my past, Naruto says. Tenten soon arrives with a curious look on her face. What do I need to see? She asks. Naruto pulls off his shirt and Anko licks her lips. And Chan likes, she says, and Tenten blushes, but Naruto shakes his head, making 2 clones. The pair get in front Anko and Tenten as Naruto activates his Ruo Shoheki. You've seen my Shikai but not this side of me. When I first gained Zetsue, I acquired something darker, more animalistic, hiding in the deep recesses of my soul, Naruto states. Animalistic, Tenten comments. Naruto raises his hand to his face and swipes it across, black with purple Ryutsu flares around him. Anko's eyes widen as a heavy weight falls on her shoulders and Tenten's body seizes, but the clones keep them safe. The white of Naruto's left eye turns black and his blue pupil turns golden, while his hair turns white. A strange tattoo forms on his left arm. It is a black, tribal lightning tattoo but splits at the wrist and form 4 lines to the knuckle but continues to his chest and forms the outline of a hole. A bone-like mask forms over his mouth and nose with 2 holes on the bottom and steam comes out with each breath. This is called holification, Naruto says, his voice distorted. Naruto releases his holification and returns to normal to grabs his shirt, when learning about my past. I learned my great-grandfather was a hollow that was reborn but the taint remained and passed down the bloodline. Recombined by my parents, he explains, dispelling the clones. So like a Kekkei Genkei of sorts, Anko says, and Naruto cups his chin in thought. In a way, Naruto says and shunpos them outside the forest. Any advantages? Tenten asks. The trio make their way back to the village proper. More durable body is the easiest. I can fire a blast called Sero and use the Garganta, but I have yet to attempt that. However, it's taxing on the body. Luckily I have Kurama, Naruto says and Kurama scoffs. Have you tried her chakra yet? Tenten whispers but Naruto waves his hand. A little but not in actual fighting. Yet, Naruto replies. A couple of older genin suddenly appear in front of them, look who it is. The snake and her demon brat, one sneers and his cohorts laugh. Naruto rubs his neck and Tenten growls in her throat but Anko smirks, look Naru-kun. Ten-chan. A couple of would-be men. I bet their things are little, she says, holding up her pinky. Several veins bulge on the first's face and Naruto covers his mouth. Seems you were right in Chan, he says and Tenten giggles but makes a ram sign. Waroke no jutsu, Naruto thought and a puff of smoke erupts. From the smoke emerges a woman with G-cup and lower half covered by mist with pouty lips. All three of them spew blood from their nose and collapse as Anko cackles and Naruto returns to normal. Works every time, Naruto says and the three leap off, leaving the three on the ground. #next day #. Naruto stood with his team as they were in the mission hall, while Hiruzen and Iruka sit at a long desk. The bane of Genin was purring around our blonde's legs. Oh Tora, Madam Shimmy cries, picking her up. Sasuke smirks seeing the cat crushed into her owner's full-figured body. Another D rank completed. Let's see what we have. Painting Mr. Onikawa's house. Walk the Inuzuka's new litter. Hiruzen starts and Naruto lights up a bit. I could take Kuroshiro with us. She could use interactions with other pups, Naruto thought. A cry echoes and a shout of Tora, and catch Tora once again, Hiruzen says. Sasuke clenches his fist. No, he starts and Hiruzen furrows his brow. No more of these missions. I want a real mission, Sasuke shouts. Sasuke, you have been a genin for just over a month. You are not ready for higher rank missions, Iruka says but Sasuke glowers him. Hiruzen puffs his pipe with his gaze on Sasuke, then to Hinata and Naruto. Kakashi, do you believe your team is ready for a higher rank mission? Hiruzen asks and Kakashi looks up from his ICHA. Perhaps. 2 rookies of the year. I believe so, Kakashi says and Naruto frowns, which Hiruzen catches. Iruka please go fetch Tazuna. AC rank escort mission should suffice, Hiruzen says and Iruka rises from his seat, to fetch the man question. Iruka quickly returns with a gray-haired, bespectacled man with a large beard and dark eyes. He wears a sleeveless versus neck shirt with an obi, pants and a pair of sandals with a towel around his neck. Tazuna-san, this is TEAM-7 under the leadership of Kakashi Hatake. They will escort you home to Nami no Kuni, Hiruzen says. Tazuna takes a sip from his flask. They look somewhat decent but the blonde looks weird with all those scars on his face, he says. Naruto's eyes narrow but he could hear 2 women angrily shouting at the older man. These are birthmarks and this was given to me by an overzealous man, he says, pointing to his whiskers and scar. Alright team. Pack for a month-long mission and meet at the main gate in 1 hour, Kakashi says and leaf shunshuns away. Sasuke scoffs and leaves, followed by Hinata and lastly by Naruto and Tazuna. Will they be alright Hokage-sama? Iruka asks and Hiruzen puffs his pipe. It will be a good experience for them, Hiruzen replies. Naruto arrives back at his shared apartment and is immediately greeted by Kuroshiro. Will you finally debut me? Zetsue comments. Naruto loads up his gear into several storage scrolls and pulls Zetsue from a seal on his hand. Sasuke will more than likely complain, Naruto muses, putting on his ninja attire. He wears a form-fitting, high collar, lightweight tactical vest and a form-fitting, long-sleeve shirt with silver sleeves with bionic arm graphics on them. A pair of Anbu-style cargo pants with calf-length combat boots, black gloves with metal knuckles and a red scarf wrapped around his neck. Naruto picks up Kuroshiro and secures their place. You'll have to stay with Hana until An-chan come back from her mission, he says and Kuroshiro barks. Naruto and Kuroshiro arrive at the Inuzuka compound. At the gates happen to be Kiba's mother Sume. She has long, spiky, untamed brown hair, thick eyebrows, vertical slit-like pupils, elongated canine teeth and nails with her clan fang markings on her cheeks. She also has markings over her eyes and wears a dark shade of purple lipstick on her lips. She wears the standard outfit of a Konoha shinobi consisting of a flak jacket, and a black suit underneath with the sleeves rolled up and bandages around her legs. What brings you here, pup? Tsume says. Naruto lets Kuroshiro down to greet Kuromaru. I have a C rank mission to Nami and Anko's out of the village. So I wanted Hana to keep Kuroshiro until Anko comes home, he explains, bending to give Kuroshiro some goodbye scritches. Ha ha ha. That's fine. We'll take good care of her, Tsume says in Naruto bows, before excusing himself and leaping off. Kushina. Your son is growing up to be a good man, Tsume says, entering the compound with Kuromaru and Kuroshiro. Naruto soon reaches the gate and finds Tazuna waiting. You're the first kid, Tazuna states. Seems so, Naruto comments, resting his arm on Zetsue. Hinata soon arrives with her pack hanging from her shoulder. Where's your supplies, Naruto-kun? She asks and he points to his pockets. In storage scrolls, Naruto says. Where'd you get that sword, Dobi? Sasuke says, walking up. Naruto sighs with his eyes closed. A gift, he says, but Sasuke scoffs. It's a wasted gift. You should give it to me, Sasuke says, holding his hand out. Naruto clicks Zetsue out of her sheath and pulls the sword out enough to show it was a reverse blade sword. I think it would waste it on you, Naruto says and clicks her back, but Sasuke only scoffs. A half hour passes and Kakashi soon arrives. Well, my cute genin. This is our first mission outside the village. So be ready and on guard, he says, and the three nod. Well, two of them. The group takes off at a civilian pace because Tazuna refused to be carried, but Naruto stretches his senses. You know Kenjutsu as well? Kakashi asks, not looking up from his book. Naruto runs his fingers along Zetsue's sheath. A little, he lies. Master swordsman, Zetsue comments and Naruto mentally chuckles. Almost, Naruto thought. The group continues in silence as Tazuna makes small talk, but soon a small puddle was ahead of them. Kakashi notices and so does Naruto, but the former doesn't know that. Be more obvious, Naruto thought, as the group passes the puddle. Two figures suddenly emerge from the puddle, wearing a rebreather that covers the lower half of their faces and a large, clawed, poisonous gauntlet on their right and left arms. Both also wear a camouflage suit with bandages around their waist, dark-colored, knee-length sandals and several pouches around their waist, but one has a ragged coat. One tosses the other forward towards Kakashi with a spike chain linking them. What? Kakashi shouts, as the chains ensnare him. One down, one sneers, as they rip Kakashi to pieces. Team 7 gasps and freezes for the moment, or rather two freeze. Protect Tazuna, Naruto shouts. Too late, both says, appearing behind Naruto, but the blonde smirks. Suddenly the chains shatters through unknown means, but both see gashes in the dirt as they back jump. Hinata and Sasuke snap out of their shock and the former gets in front of Tazuna with her Juken ready. Sasuke springs into action with a leap and toss of a kunai, while Naruto shoot forward towards them. The enemy releases their broken chain and spilt, but Sasuke cracks one with a kick. Maizu, the other shouts. He gasps as Naruto was right in front of him. Acting quickly, he swings his claw, but Naruto ducks under the overswing and connects with an uppercut. Gozu, Maizu shouts, seeing his brother crumble. Sasuke uses the slight moment to strike Maizu with a spring kick and he flies into an appearing Kakashi. Good work, you three, Kakashi says. Naruto glances to the spot and sees broken logs. He was testing us, he thought, hoisting Gozu on his shoulder. Kakashi quickly ties up Maizu and Gozu as Hinata approaches. Naruto-kun, are you okay? She says. I'm alright, Hinata. You? Naruto says and Hinata nods. Kakashi turns to Tazuna with suspicious eyes. Tazuna-san, these are demon brothers. Chunin level missing nin from Kurigakure. It seems they were after you, he says. Tazuna looks away slightly and his eyes flicker, but Kakashi pushes forward. You asked for a simple C rank escort, but with them here, it bumps this up to AB rank minimum, he says. I couldn't afford a higher rank mission. Our country is poor, Tazuna says and goes on to explain the situation. This does complicate things. The demon brother are often seen in the company of Zabuza Momochi, an A rank missing nin. My team is not ready for such a battle, Kakashi says, and Tazuna clenches his fists. Please, if I can finish my bridge, Nami will become free of Gado's tyranny, Tazuna says, and Kakashi sighs but glances back to his team. In good conscience I can't drag you three into this, but if we abandon our mission, it won't look good for Konoha's image. So what do you three think? Kakashi says. We go forward. I am an Uchiha. I will not back down, Sasuke says. Hinata looks between Tazuna and Kakashi. I say we go as well, but we should ask for backup as well, she says, but Sasuke scoffs. Naruto, Kakashi says, and Naruto sighs. I agree with Hinata. We should press forward but call for some backup too, Naruto says. Kakashi cups his chin in thought. Therein lies a problem. A Jonin level opponent will come next and backup may be too late, he says. We don't need backup. We can handle anything, Sasuke says. Kakashi turns back to Tazuna. We will press forward, but this mission is now upgraded to A rank and I'll send for backup, he says, and Sasuke frowns. What about them? Naruto says, pointing his thumb at the demon brothers. Kakashi smiles with a tilt of his head. Someone will find them, he says, and the group quickly on. A few minutes after they were gone, a clone of Naruto appears to decapitates the brothers and destroys the bodies. I'll pray for your souls, he says, and seals the heads and metal claws in scrolls, before heading to a bounty station. #Nami-no-Kuni #. A light mist rolls through the coastline as Team 7 and Tazuna arrive in Nami itself, but a trap was being set before them. Sasuke suddenly whips his kunai into the bushes and a white bunny scampers out of the bush line. Kakashi's eye narrows. The code is wrong for this time of year, he thought. Someone's coming, Naruto thought. A loud whistling catches everyone's ears. Get down, Kakashi shouts, tackling Tazuna. Naruto tackles Hinata as a massive blade sails over them and embeds itself into a tree, but suddenly a figure lands on the hilt. He is a tall and noticeably muscular man with light grayish skin, short spiky black hair, dark brown eyes, and small eyebrows with bandages like a mask over the bottom half of his face. He is shirtless, with his chest only covered by a belt, wearing baggy pants with the striped pattern typical of Kurigakure and mimetic wrist warmers extending up to his elbows, with matching leg warmers. Ha 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 ha. No wonder the demon brothers failed, he says, glancing back at Kakashi. The copy nin steps forward, Zabuza Momochi. Demon of the Hidden Mist. Team Manji formation, he says. Naruto takes a point as Hinata and Sasuke draw their kunai. Save me the trouble and let me have the old man. His death has been called for, Zabuza says. Kakashi slowly reaches for his Hitai-8 and Zabuza chuckles, Ho Sharingan already. I am honored, Zabuza says, and Sasuke's eyes narrow. Sharingan. How can he have it? Sasuke thought, as Kakashi reveals his Sharingan. Background music. Zabuza theme. Zabuza pulls his Kubikiribocho from the tree and drops down as the mist starts to get thicker, landing a small lake near them. Kakashi readies himself as Zabuza holds up a ram sign. Ninpo, Kurigakure no Jutsu, Zabuza utters and the mist becomes even thicker. Hinata quickly activates her Byakugan, but the mist is laden with chakra, causing Zabuza to chuckle darkly. Ho, a Hyuga as well. I can sell you to Kumo for a hefty price, Zabuza says, his voice echoing around them. The demon of mist also starts to release his Ki with ominous chuckling. Where to strike first? So many choices, Zabuza says, reciting the 8 points. Sweat runs down Hinata and Sasuke's faces as the Ki was so thick, forcing the Uchiha to point his kunai at this throat. Naruto clicks Zetsue out her sheath with his eyes closed as Kakashi releases his own Ki to counter. Don't worry. I will protect you all, Kakashi says, but Zabuza chuckles, appearing behind them. Too late. Zabuza says but jerks, as his head sails away. Kakashi gasps as Naruto had severed Zabuza's head, but it melts into water. How? Kakashi thought. Zabuza appears behind Kakashi and slices him in half, but like him only water remains. Mizu Bunshin. He thought. Kakashi lands in front of his team as Zabuza glares. Clever, and that blonde Gaki is quite skilled, Zabuza says. Indeed, Kakashi says, rushing Zabuza with a kunai. Naruto holds Zetsue in a basic kendo stance as Kakashi and Zabuza engage in Dance of Death. It's over, Zabuza shouts, kicking Kakashi into the lake. Zabuza quickly closes the gap as Kakashi surfaces. Suiten, Suiro no Jutsu, he shouts, and Kakashi gasps, as the water prison surrounds him. Damn it. I was careless, Kakashi thought, and Zabuza chuckles. HMM. You underestimated me, Kakashi. I'll have to deal with you later. First I'll kill these wannabe ninja, Zabuza says, raising another ram sign. The water ripples in 6 spots as replicas of Zabuza appear. These should be more than enough, he sneers, and Kakashi gasps. Run, take Tazuna. You're not match for him, Kakashi shouts. Sasuke clenches his fists. Run. I am an Uchiha elite, he thought, about to rush forward, but Naruto grabs him. Don't rush in carelessly, Tem, Naruto says, but Sasuke shrugs his hand off. Suddenly 4 clones of Naruto appear around them. Protect Tazuna. I'll hold him off. My clones will help, Naruto says, walking past them. Naruto-kun. You can't, Hinata says, but Naruto looks back with a smile. Trust me, Naruto says. Fine, go and die, Dobi. No one will mourn you, Sasuke says. One of the Zabuza clones goes for them, but Naruto cuts him in half with a serious look on his eyes. Background music. Senna, Bleach Ost. You think a kid like you can beat me? Zabuza says. Naruto makes his way forward and steps onto the lake, causing Kakashi's eyes to widen. He knows water walking, Kakashi thought. Naruto points Zetsue at the real Zabuza. A cornered mouse can kill a cat. You're making the same mistake. Kakashi-sensei did, he says. The clones charge Naruto as the blonde picks up speed, before cutting all done with several precise swings. Who is this brat, Kakashi? Zabuza says, but gasps, as Naruto was behind him with thrust aimed for his head. Zabuza breaks his hold on the water prison and blocks the thrust, but it pushes him back. What? That thrust, he thought. Another clone of Naruto puffs to life and helps Kakashi up. Sensei. I'll handle this, Naruto says. Naruto. Zabuza is an A- rank missing nin. You can't win, Kakashi says, but gasps, seeing the seriousness of Naruto's eyes. I'm observant, Kakashi-sensei, and your chakra is running low. I'll hold him off and you retreat to safety, Naruto says. Zabuza chuckles darkly and leaps with a downward swing, but Naruto blocks but doesn't buckle. Go. He shouts and the clone leaps away. You are pretty strong, Zabuza, Naruto says, exerting enough to break their stalemate. Zabuza lands with a dark look on his face. Who are you, brat? He says. Naruto slips into his Gatatsu stance. Naruto Uzumaki, he says, shooting forward. Zabuza heaves his Zanbato at Naruto to block the thrust with a loud clang, trying to throw Naruto off balance. Naruto quickly back jumps, but Zabuza presses with wide and heavy swings. He's good. He has impressive upper body strength to swing such a large weapon with relative ease, he thought. On land, Sasuke was looking in shock, anger and jealousy as the clone lands with Kakashi. Kakashi-sensei, Hinata says, rushing to his side. I'm alright, Hinata, Kakashi says, pulling down his Hitai-8. That Naruto kid is strong, Tazuna says. Kakashi staggers to his feet with his eye on the battle. Naruto. How can you be this strong? Your eyes were not a teenager but a seasoned fighter, he thought. Naruto dodges a wide swing but vanishes and lands on the extended blade. A Warida, he thought. Zabuza quickly uses Shunshin to extend the gap, but Naruto was on him with thrust strikes and a spinning swing to the ribs. Zabuza gasps and grunts as he slams into a tree off of the lake. How? How is kid so powerful? He thought, but saw Naruto's eyes. Those eyes. It's like I am staring into the maw of a dragon, Zabuza thought, but jerks as three Senbons strike his neck and he collapses. Song ends. Naruto halts in tracks as a figure lands in front of the prone Zabuza. Thank you for slowing him enough for me, the figure says. Their outfit consists of the standard Kurigakure pinstripe outfit which stops at their knees. Over this is a green haori with white trimmings, and around the waist a brown sash with a fringed trail wrapped around twice. Light brown platoon sandals with straps in the same color as the kimono and nail polish on their fingernails and toenails in matching blue-green color. A white mask with thin, curved eye holes and a red wavy design in place of the mouth, as well as the Kurigakure symbol etched in the top. Who are you? Naruto says, on guard. The figure says nothing but lifts Zabuza. Excuse me, they say, but gasps and narrowly dodges Naruto's thrust, vanishing into the mist. Zabuza had help, Kurama notes. Naruto rests Zetsue on his shoulder with a sigh. Indeed, he says, walking across the small lake. The mist slowly recedes as Naruto reaches the other side, causing Kakashi to gasp at Naruto's form. It can't be. I remember similar eyes. Sensei, but that impossible. Sandaime-sama told me their child died, Kakashi thought. Dobi, how are you this strong? Sasuke shouts, interrupting Kakashi's thoughts. However, Naruto ignores Sasuke and kneels on one knee in front of Kakashi. Are you alright, sensei? He asks. Yeah, but what happened to Zabuza? Kakashi replies. A hunter nin stepped in, but they were an accomplice to Zabuza and they escaped, Naruto explains, and Kakashi sighs. Meaning Zabuza will be back. Tazuna, how far is your house? Kakashi adds. Not far, Tazuna says. Naruto helps Kakashi to his feet and group moves towards Tazuna's home, but one was angry. Tazuna's home was a two-story seaside inn with small docks. Tsunami, I'm home, Tazuna shouts. The door slides open as a young woman with long blue hair steps out. Dad. Thank Kami, Tsunami says, but sees the group and flinches, seeing Naruto's scar. These ninja will protect us from Gato, Tazuna says, ushering everyone inside. The clones take Kakashi upstairs with Hinata and Tsunami, leaving Naruto, Sasuke and Tazuna downstairs. Grandpa, a little girl of 8 shouts. Tazuna turns with a smile and hugs his granddaughter Inari, but she sees the others and glares. Why are they here? She asks. They will protect us from Gato. The blonde even fought a strong assassin and won, Tazuna says, and Sasuke scoffs. Inari looks at Naruto with anger in her young eyes, but the blonde squats down. A child shouldn't have eyes like that. You lost someone to Gato, he says, and Inari glowers him, before running off. Tazuna sighs and rubs his forehead. Her father, he says, and Naruto frowns. Zabuza lies motionless on the group as the fake hunter nin opens a case. I'll cut the bandages and drain some of the blood, they thought, reaching for some scissors. They reach for Zabuza's mask, but he grabs their hand as his eyes shoot open. I can do it myself, he hisses, pulling his bandages down. You're already awake, the hunter says. Zabuza slowly sits up with a groan and pulls one of the Senbon out his neck. You're brutal. Haku, he says. You're brutal, Zabuza-sama. If you keep pulling those out, you could bleed out, Haku says, and Zabuza glares. Take off that stupid mask, Zabuza says. Haku removes the mask to reveal a young man with soft features and brown eyes. I have fond memories of this mask and it almost fooled that ninja, he says. That blonde Uzumaki is dangerous. He's around your age and that skilled, Zabuza says, spitting out some blood. His comrades were just as shocked as you. I checked your injuries. It will at least 2 weeks before you can fully function, Haku explains, helping Zabuza to his feet. Zabuza brushes Haku aside and clutches his ribs. Next time I'll kill you, Uzumaki and Kakashi, he thought. Tazuna's house. Kakashi opens his eye to see Hinata and Tsunami sitting on his right and left. How long was I out? He asks, sitting up. Not long, an hour at the most, Hinata replies. Tazuna, Sasuke and Naruto walk upstairs, but Kakashi's gaze is on our blonde. He must be Sensei's child, but why would the Sandaime lie? He thought. How are you feeling, Kakashi-sensei? Naruto asks, taking a seat in front of him. Kakashi cover his right eye. I've been better. It'll be a few days before I can move properly, he says. The Dobi let Zabuza get away. So what will we do? Sasuke asks and Naruto frowns. Zabuza will be out of commission. If we're lucky, but we'll need to be on guard. In the meantime, we're gonna ramp up your training, Kakashi explains. What sort of training can we do in such a time? Hinata says. Tsunami fetches Kakashi a pair of crutches and he slowly leads his team outside. The first thing we're going to do is improve your chakra control, Kakashi says, and Naruto sighs, before walking up a tree with no hands. Kakashi coughs in his hand, right, that is called tree walking. It's a chakra control exercise, he says. Kurenai-sensei showed me that in water walking, Hinata says, and Kakashi sighs, this time. Alright Sasuke, I want you to start on tree walking. Hinata will be your spotter, Kakashi says and turns to Naruto, missing the glare from Sasuke. Naruto, follow me, Kakashi says, and the pair make their way to the dock near Tazuna's house. Naruto takes a seat on the dock's edge as Kakashi stands. Naruto. Tell me, how strong are you really? He says. Naruto stays silent for a moment with his eyes on the water. To be honest, I don't know. I've never fought anyone other than sparring. Zabuza was my first live opponent, he says. I see. Who taught you tree and water walking? Kakashi asks. Naruto pulls one of his legs to his chest. Anko and Kurenai-sensei. Everything else I learned from observation, he replies, and Kakashi touches his Hitai-8. So you hide your strength out fear of the populace of Konoha, Kakashi says, and Naruto nods. I did. I am a Jinchuriki. If people found out I was strong, not some doofus, I would more than like have been killed. So I hid my strength and played the part of a dead last, Naruto explains. Kakashi moves closer and reaches in his pouch for a strip of paper. This is chakra paper. It shows a ninja their elemental affinity, he states. Naruto takes the paper and channels his chakra. Slowly the paper splits in half and part crinkles. Lightning and wind. Impressive, Kakashi says and clears his throat. For futon, you'll need to cut a leaf with it, and for Raiden you will need to wrinkle a leaf, he explains. Thanks Kakashi-sensei, Naruto says, and Kakashi walks off. Beside you have the perfect cheat code, Zetsue says. #Konohagakure hash. Hiruzen slowly smokes his pipe as two of his three original students and legendary Sannin Jiraiya and Tsunade. Jiraiya is a tall and well-built man with fair skin. He has waist-length, spiky white hair that tied back into a ponytail, with two shoulder-length bangs framing his face. His clothes consist of a green short shirt, kimono and matching pants, with mesh armor that is visible at his wrists and ankles. He also wears hand guards, a black belt, wooden sandals, and a red haori with two yellow circles on each side. Tsunade is a fair-skinned woman with brown eyes and straight blonde hair that parts above her forehead. Her hair has shoulder-length bangs that frame her face and the rest reaches her lower back. Her attire is grass-green haori and a gray, kimono-style blouse with no sleeves, held closed by a broad, dark bluish-gray obi that matches her pants, and open-toed, strappy black sandals with high heels. Thank you both for coming on such a short notice. Especially you Tsunade, Hiruzen says, but Tsunade only scoffs. Only because you agreed to pay off my debts, Tsunade says and crosses her legs. So what's this all about, she adds. Hiruzen sighs and takes an intake from his pipe. Naruto Uzumaki, he says. Jiraiya's eyes narrow as Tsunade furrows her brow. I thought he died with his parents, she says. A lie. Naruto-kun survived, but recently something has changed, Hiruzen says. What happened, sensei? Jiraiya says. Hiruzen pushes Naruto's ninja ID photo and Jiraiya takes it. Naruto-kun has changed. The persona I have witnessed for the last few years has been a carefully made mask, he states. What happened to his face? Tsunade comments and Hiruzen frowns. When he was 9, he was attacked by several people including a Jonin, Hiruzen explains and Jiraiya grits his teeth. What the hell, sensei? You told me Naruto would be taken care of, Jiraiya says and Tsunade furrows her brow. You knew the kid was alive, Tsunade says and rubs her forehead, this is why I left. All this talking out both sides of your mouth, she adds. I am old. I have been Hokage too long. Which is why I brought you here, Tsunade. I want you to become Hokage, Hiruzen says and a deep frown forms on Tsunade's face. Not happening, Tsunade says and rises from but Hiruzen unleashes his ki, halting her. Don't become Hokage for the village. Do it for Shizune and Naruto. Danzo is sniffing around him. If Danzo learns of Naruto-kun's true strength, he will make a move to take him, Hiruzen states, projecting the god of shinobi of his past. Tsunade slowly sits down. How strong is the kid, she says. Hiruzen leans back in his chair. I do not know, but he sensed one of Danzo's nei. He also learned the Kage Bunshin by simply observing, he says, shocking his students. What about the Kyuubi? Jiraiya says. He knows about his burden and has spoken to the Kyuubi and claims she is just as of a victim of that night as he is, Hiruzen explains. Jiraiya leans back in his chair with flickering eyes. Has it she influenced him? I'll need to check the seal, he says. He's on a C-rank mission to Nami, Hiruzen says and turns his attention to Tsunade. Will you consider it, Tsunade? Other than Shizune-chan, Naruto-kun is all that remains of your family, Hiruzen says and Tsunade clenches her fists. I want to meet him. Then I'll make my decision. Also you better keep those jackals away from Shizune, Tsunade says and Hiruzen sighs softly, nodding. #Nami-no-Kuni #. Hinata makes her way through the forest in search of Naruto but finds his clones in a large clearing. So many Naruto-kuns, she thought. Hey Hinata, the clones said in unison. Hinata blushes slightly as the clones continue their exercises. Where's Naruto-kun? She asks. By the dock, one says, concentrating on the leaf in his hand. Hinata activates her Byakugan and sees the real Naruto was indeed on the dock, quickly making her way there. Naruto was balancing on one of the stumps on the dock with his left arm and his right behind his back. His chakra is calm but turbulent, Hinata thought, making her way on the deck. A creak of wood alerts Naruto and he opens his eyes. So Sasuke finished his tree walking, he says, leaning down to stand upright. Kakashi-sensei took over, Hinata says. Naruto stretches a bit to pop his joints. So you came to find me, he says and Hinata nods. That's good, we can work on your Juken, Naruto comments, as they head back to the clearing. Naruto dispels his clones and rubs his head with a groan. This never gets better, he thought. Don't dispel so many at once, Kurama comments and Zetsue giggles. Naruto rubs the back of his neck as he slips off his shirt, leaving only his undershirt. Hinata slips into her Juken stance as Naruto slips into his basic boxing stance. When you're ready, he says. Hinata looks for an opening but Naruto snaps with a jab, forcing her to quickly dodge and counter with a Juken strike. Naruto backpedals to dodge the strike but he felt the twinge in his right arm. Hinata presses and aptly dodges Naruto's jabs like flowing water but she quickly ducks under a full power right, countering with a double palm to Naruto's chest. Your dodging is getting better. From what you told me the Juken is very rooted like earth but your body moves like water. Flowing and contouring, Naruto says, rubbing his chest and having some welts on his arm. Father still believes it's a flawed style, Hinata comments. Naruto reaches in his pouch and strikes with several kunai but Hinata spins on her heels, creating a dome of chakra to block each and every one. Naruto closes the gap as the dome comes down and fires off several rapid-fire jabs but Hinata undulates her body to dodge them. however, to find the mark and grazes her cheek and forehead, knocking off balance, but she dodges. Something unprecedented happens and she connects with a side kick to Naruto's right side. Naruto smiles as Hinata stays vertical and prepares for the next barrage. He'll really say it's flawed by using your legs in such a manner, he says. Hinata has a determined look on her face. I need to grow stronger. Neji Nisan is taking the Chunin exams and I suspect Kakashi-sensei will have to put us in, she starts. So you may face Neji, Naruto finishes and Hinata slowly nods. I want to save him from the stigma he sees himself in and to do it. I need to show him I am strong, Hinata says and Naruto nods, rubbing his arms and feels Kurama sending some chakra to open his tenketsu points. Plus I want to show Anko and Tenten I deserve you, Hinata thought. Naruto shakes his arms as Hinata dabs some cream on her cheek and forehead. We should head back, he says and the pair head off to find Kakashi and Sasuke. Hashtag 4 days later hash. 4 days have passed since TEAM-7 arrived in Nami and it has been relatively quiet, save an incident with Inari. The young girl blew up at a dinner and berated the genin but mostly Naruto for his unwavering attitude. However, Naruto told Inari about his childhood and his scar, causing the little girl to cry and run off. However, Kakashi spoke to Inari about Naruto and eventually she apologized to Naruto and began to see him as big brother. Sasuke didn't believe Naruto's story and continued his training, moving from tree walking to starting on water walking and also spying on Naruto and Hinata. This caused Naruto to train solely at night and Hinata keeping to chakra control exercises and building her reserves. Currently Naruto is leaning on a tree with his right leg pulled to his chest and his left under it. Zetsue resting on his chest with his right arm wrapped her as the sun rises. This is the scene a young man with long black hair and dressed in a pink kimono with a black choker around his neck happens upon. He's the one that injured Zabuza-sama, Haku thought, adjusting his basket. The foe hunter quietly makes his way toward Naruto. I could kill him easily, he thought, reaching out but shakes Naruto. You'll catch cold out here, Haku says, as Naruto opens his eyes. Naruto's eyes narrow but he slowly gets to his feet. I'll be alright. Who are you? He asks, rolling his neck. I'm Haku. Are you a shinobi or a samurai? Haku asks. Naruto tilts his head in thought, a bit of both maybe. Why are you here alone? He says and Haku points to his basket. I'm searching for herb for a friend that is injured, Haku states. Naruto ruffles his hair and slips Zetsue into his belt. I see. Are you a shinobi, Haku? He asks. No. Shinobi-san, Haku says. I'm Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki, Naruto says. Haku softly smiles as he spots some herbs. Will you assist me? Naruto-kun, he asks. Sure. Naruto replies, rubbing his hair. Naruto follows Haku through the forest. Why do you seek strength, Naruto-kun? He says, placing several herbs in his basket. I seek strength to fight strong opponents. Naruto starts but thinks of Anko and Tenten, but to also protect those I love and care for, he adds. His eyes. They are not that of a boy but someone of experience, Haku thought and smiles. I see. If someone has a precious person, they become truly strong, he adds, walking ahead. I should return to my friend, Haku says and bids farewell. Oh, one more thing. I am man, she adds. But you could pass for a girl. Oh, tell Zabuza. I look forward to our rematch, Naruto says and Haku whips around but Naruto was gone. He is dangerous but interesting, Haku thought, before vanishing into snow flurries. Naruto reaches Tazuna's house and sees Tenten's team standing outside the house. Naruto, Tenten says. Your team is our backup, Naruto says and Tenten nods. Yeah, you remember Neji and Lee, Tenten says. Yush, it's good to see you again, Naruto-kun, Lee declares, his good guy smile on Max. Uzumaki, Neji says, curtly. Naruto ignores Neji and follows Tenten into the house to find their respective sensei, some first C rank, she says. Yeah, I got to fight Zabuza Momochi, Naruto says and Tenten's eyes light. That means you got to see his sword. The Kubikiribocho, Tenten says, fangirling out. Naruto nods with a ruffle of his hair. It was as impressive as the stories, he muses, as the fine Kakashi and Guy speaking. Oh, it's nice to finally meet you, Naruto-kun. Ten-chan often speaks of you, Guy says, and Naruto glances to the panda. It's nice to meet you too, Guy-sensei, Naruto says. With Guy's team here, we can focus on protecting Tazuna and Guy's team with care for his family, Kakashi says, and both nod. The pair excuse and make their way to Naruto's room with Sasuke. I got something for you, Naruto says, pulling out a scroll from his belongings. Tenten takes the scroll from Naruto with a furrowed brow. Inside are the gauntlets of the demon brothers of Kiri, he says. For real? Tenten says, Whisper shouts. Yeah, I know you love new weapons. So they are yours, but you'll have to get the poison out, Naruto says. That won't be problem. Thanks, Naruto, Tenten says, and Naruto smiles. Another week passes with relative quiet, save the tension between Naruto and Neji, but it never came to blows. Currently Naruto finds himself on the roof to Tazuna's house, with a clone pretending to sleep with Team Guy guarding Tsunami and Inari in case of Gato's men. Kakashi and the others took Tazuna to the bridge, but also being weary of Zabuza and Haku. Naruto opens his eyes and senses two men approaching the house, before rising to his feet and dropping down. Who the are you? One says, wearing an eye patch. Naruto says nothing but clicks Zetsue out of her sheath as he approaches the two men. Death, Naruto says, blinking behind them. Both men freeze and their eyes widen as a thin line appears on their necks, before their heads roll off their bodies. Naruto quickly makes a clone to dispose of the bodies, before taking off to the bridge and leaving the others unaware of anything. #unfinished bridge hash. Sasuke glares at his opponent within a large dome of ice mirrors, his only saving grace being his Sharingan glaring back at Haku's emotionless mask. The Uchiha Saiyan believed himself superior to his opponent but was soon settled by the Hyoten user. Please surrender. I do not wish to harm you any further, Haku says, appearing in several mirrors. Sasuke pulls a Senbon from his arm with a grit of his teeth and retorts with a fireball, but like before has no effect on the mirrors. You cannot melt this ice. It's infused with my chakra, Haku says and holds up several Senbon. Sasuke prepares himself, but out the corner of his eye sees Hinata guarding Tazuna and a smirk forms on his face, before adopting a ram sign. Outside the ice mirror dome, Hinata stands in front of Tazuna but suddenly felt the rush of substitution and finds herself inside the dome as Senbon were making there towards her. He would do that to teammate, Haku thought, shocked. Hinata's eyes widen as a large of amount Senbon were speeding to end her life, but once again felt the rush of substitution and the crash of Senbon. Haku gasps as Naruto was standing in Hinata's place with his arms blocking his face and his body riddled with his Senbon. Naruto-kun, Haku thought. Hinata rushes to the dome as Sasuke stood in disbelief. How? He thought. Looks like I made in time. Naruto muses and flexes his muscles, popping the Senbons from his body. Naruto-kun, Hinata shouts. I'm fine, Hinata, protect Tazuna. Naruto shouts and reaches for Zetsue. Haku appears in each mirror. I am sorry, Naruto-kun, but I am a tool and must serve Zabuza-sama, he says. Senbon shower, Haku declares. Naruto lowers his body and his quicksword erupts to block the Senbon, but before Haku could react, Zetsue was shattering the mirror he was inside. Blood sprays from the wound to his shoulder as he crashes onto the bridge with 2 hops. Naruto lands with a skid as the ice dome comes down. Hado number 58 Tenrin, he recites, creating a large gust of wind and getting rid of the mist. Kakashi halt in tracks towards a bound Zabuza, revealing the former with 2 gashes on his chest. What? Zabuza said. Kakashi's eyes were slightly wide at Naruto's appearance, but loud clapping catches all their attention. Seems the demon of mist is not a demon at all, a voice sneers. Zabuza glares at the diminutive form of Gato and at least 30 bandits. What hell are you doing? He shouts. I was never gonna pay you. I was hoping you be more injured, but beggars can't be choosers, Gato says and grins. Kill the men and bring me the girls. Especially the Hyuga. I can sell her eyes to Kumo and use her body to warm my bed, he adds. Kakashi, we are no longer enemies, Zabuza says, slowly reaching for his sword, but the wounds to his arms are not helping. However, suddenly both men freeze as a cold chill runs down their spines, the source being Naruto walking past them. Background music. Need to be strong, Naruto asked. Naruto is surrounded by red chakra, his eyes red with black slits and his whiskers thicker and his nails ripping through his gloves. Did the seal break? Kakashi thought. Zabuza tries to rein in his breath. This foul chakra. It's like Yagura. This kid, could he be a Jinchuriki? He thought. Zabuza-san. I am borrowing this, Naruto says, grabbing the Kubikiribocho. Before Kakashi or Zabuza could protest, Naruto shoots forward with enhanced speed. Kill that brat, Gato shouts, and the bandit charge, but paid for it. Naruto reaches the first wave of bandits and cleaves them in half with a wide swing. This halts some of the bandits, but Naruto makes them pay for it with another wide swing, killing several more. Several fire some arrow at Naruto, but he dodges with ease and kills several more as Gato looks in shock and horror. Hinata was looking on in shock as Naruto cuts down with this red aura around him. Naruto-kun, she thought. Sasuke was looking in anger and jealousy. What is that power? I should have it, he thought. No, the seal isn't broken but loosened, Kakashi thought. Gato's eyes widen in horror as this red-eyed demon was sprinting towards him. You're a demon, he shouts, but spews blood from his mouth as the Kubikiribocho was sticking out his gut. Naruto stood with a wide and demonic smirk on his face. Oh yes. That's what many call me, but the only demon here is you, he says, ripping the sword free in bloody fashion. Several of the remaining bandits charge Naruto and he turns with his demonic red eyes, halting them in their tracks, and they see not a boy but a giant dragon. The bandits drop their weapons and run for their lives as Naruto fully turns to his team and Zabuza but drops the sword and collapses to his knees. The red chakra dissipates as Naruto falls face down and his features return to normal. Music end. Naruto-kun, Hinata shouts, running towards him. Kakashi pulls down his Hitai-8 as Zabuza falls on his rear. Kakashi. That kid is a Jinchuriki, isn't he? He says, but Kakashi doesn't answer. Hinata reaches Naruto and turns him on his back. Naruto-kun. Naruto-kun, she whispers. Naruto scrunches his face and slowly opens his eyes. Hinata, he whispers, and she quickly nods. You did pretty good using my chakra for the first time in battle. They'll think you reacted to that trash's words and snapped, Kurama comments. Zabuza staggers to his feet with a look towards Haku as he slowly approaches, clutching his shoulder. Your Gaki saved us, Kakashi, Zabuza says. So you're admitting defeat? Kakashi and Zabuza scoffs. He slowly approaches Naruto, but Kakashi get in his path. I won't be killing him. The kid's earned my respect, he says, picking up his sword. A crowd of people catches their attention and they all see the residents of Nami led by Team Guy, Inari and Tsunami with makeshift weapon. Look, it's Gato. He's dead. We're free. We're free, several shout. Sasuke clenches his fists as Kakashi and Hinata helps Naruto to his feet. How did you get so strong, Dobi? You will tell me. One way or another, Sasuke thought. Naruto opens his eyes in his mindscape and rubs his head. Well, using your chakra was a success, he muses. Kurama leaps down from her throne. The seal is designed for access to my chakra, she says. However, this will open a set of problems. Kakashi will not doubt inform the Sandaime. Hinata and Sasuke also saw this and he will definitely raise a stink, Zetsue comments. Naruto thumbs his chin in thought but sighs. He's lucky I don't snap his neck for what he did to Hinata, but that would cause more shit. However, I will have passed the use of Kurama's power off as a Kekkei Genkai for now. His inane law is still effect, he says. Danzo will no doubt have his eyes on the report Kakashi gives and will make a move to get you, Zetsue says, but Naruto scoffs. Then he co-signs his forces to death. Once I return, I'll have my clone search for his base. Once I do, I will trim the roots from the great tree, Naruto says, and Kurama giggles. In the real world, Naruto opens his eyes to the breeze of the ocean. Craning his head, he sees Zabuza in the corner of the room with bandages on his legs and arms. Naruto-kun, Hinata says, and Naruto cranes his head right, seeing her staring back. How long have I been out? Naruto asks. Hinata takes the towel from his forehead. Just over a day. I was worried, she says. Sorry I worried you, but why is Zabuza here? Naruto states, and Zabuza chuckles. We aren't enemies anymore. So Kakashi was gracious enough to let me heal, Zabuza states, opening his eyes. Naruto-kun, what was that red chakra? You looked so, Hinata says, and Naruto sits up. I don't know. I heard what Gato said about you and I just tapped into something. Maybe it was a Kekkei Genkei, Naruto says, but hated lying to her. Hinata sits with concern in her pearl eyes and slowly gets to her feet. I'll tell Kakashi-sensei you're awake, she says, and excuses herself. Why did you lie to her? Zabuza asks, after Hinata was gone. Naruto tosses the sheet aside and moves towards the window. The Sandaime Hokage made a law. It keeps the younger generation from knowing about my status. They believe the Yondaime Hokage took the Kyuubi into death with him, he explains and touches his scar. However, that didn't stop someone from telling the village about the situation, Naruto adds. Jinchuriki are considered walking weapons. The current Yondaime Mizukage is the container of the Sanbi and an insane monster, Zabuza says. Naruto looks out the window with a sigh. So why did you become missing, Nin? He asks. Zabuza shifts to a more comfortable position, the Mizukage. He started a bloodline purge. Anyone with a Kekkei Genkei was to be killed. I tried to assassinate him but failed. I met Haku along the way. His father murdered his mother and nearly got him too because of his Hyoten, he states. I owe Zabuza-sama my life. I am his tool but I failed, Haku says, standing in the doorway. Zabuza scoffs and leans back. You didn't fail. Your opponent was too much for you, he says, and looks Naruto in the eye. You're a lot stronger that you let on Gaki. Those eyes of yours are not some Gaki but a battle-hardened warrior, Zabuza adds. Naruto crosses his arms on the windowsill and rests his head on them. Perhaps, but I ask you keep that a secret for now, he muses, glancing his way and his eyes glowing slightly. Zabuza gives Naruto a shark-like grin. You owe me a rematch, Gaki, and I'll claim sooner or later. So keep growing stronger, he says, and Naruto nods, with a smirk. So what will we do now, Zabuza-sama? Haku asks. We'll hook up with the rebels in Kiri and help them overthrow that bastard Yagura. Then see wherever the water takes us, Zabuza states. Kakashi walks in with Hinata, Inari and Tsunami with a tray of food. Naruto Onichan, Inari shouts, slamming into him. Naruto smiles and pats her head. Sorry for making you worry, he says. You've saved us, Naruto-kun, Tsunami says, kneeling down with the tray. Kakashi gives Naruto a eye smile. Indeed. The villagers and Team Guy raided Gato's compound and have been spreading his wealth to the people, he says. You're saved us all, Naruto Onichan, Inari states, and Naruto eye smiles. Well, Naruto. Despite getting rid of Gato, our mission isn't finished until Tazuna finished his bridge, Kakashi states. Naruto glances to Haku and Zabuza but back to Kakashi. How long will be here? He asks. Since people are free to help. Tazuna says about month. So we can get some more training. Team Guy will be heading back to give a preliminary report. I think we can handle some bandits, Kakashi replies. We'll be heading back to Kiri to assist the rebels, Zabuza comments, and Kakashi glances his way. I heard rumors that they are close to toppling to the Mizukage, Kakashi states, and Zabuza arches an eyebrow. Interesting. I'll be up and about in a week. I can give your brats some pointers. Especially the blonde. He's got skills, he says, but unbeknownst to all but one. A certain Uchiha was listening as Sasuke clenches his fists. I will learn your secrets, Dobi, he thought. About 30 minutes later, Naruto, Hinata&Tenten and surprisingly Haku were in a clearing near Tazuna's house. Haku, I wonder if you could show Hinata some of the herbs you used to heal Zabuza and perhaps how to use Senbons. Also maybe convince Zabuza to let Tenten see his sword before they leave. She's a bit of a weapons weirdo, Naruto states, and Haku quirks his eyebrow, while Tenten puffs her cheeks. Your perception is interesting, Naruto-kun. Up until a day ago we were enemies, Haku, and Naruto ruffles his hair. That may be true, but today's enemy could be tomorrow's ally, Naruto says, as both girls and boy tilt their heads. I like to read history, and many villages were founded with enemies becoming allies. Our village is true of this. Hashirama Senju and Madara Uchiha were fierce enemies but became powerful allies, Naruto explains. Your perception is indeed interesting, Naruto-kun, Haku says and turns to the pair. If you're willing, I can give you some pointers and convince Zabuza-sama, he adds. Hinata bows slightly with a glance to Naruto. I am in your care, she says, and the pair excuse themselves. I'll get you back for the crack, Tenten whispers, following them. Naruto smiles but rolls his neck, but his eyes narrow. It's not nice to spy Tem, he says. Sasuke drops down in a crouch. Fight me, Dobi, he says, rising to his full height. Naruto pockets his hands with a tilt of his head. Why? We're teammates. Fighting is not needed, he says, walking past Sasuke but is roughly turned around. Sasuke gets into Naruto's face and his Sharingan comes to life. I said fight me. You're better at speaking. So when I say fight, you do as you're told, clanless loser, he sneers. Naruto sighs and walks past Sasuke, fetching his black gloves from his pocket. Fine then, Tem, but don't say I didn't warn you, Naruto says, slipping them on and fully turns to face Sasuke. Sasuke scoffs and slips into his clan's interceptor fist. Take your own advice, Dobi, he says. Naruto slips into his basic boxing stance but slowly shifts with his left more forward and his right close to his chin. Kakashi-sensei is watching, so if Sasuke goes too far, he'll step in, Naruto thought. Background music. Hashire Hunter x Hunter. Naruto and Sasuke stay motionless in their stance as Kakashi watches from the trees. I knew this would happen. The more Naruto shows, the more it infuriates Sasuke, he thought. Sasuke makes the first move and close, but his danger senses went off, halting a bit, but Naruto takes advantage. He attempts a snap left jab but Sasuke dodges in part to Sharingan. You're open, Sasuke thought, but his breath hitches, as Naruto fist was right back in front of him. Naruto uses the moment for another jab but Sasuke gets his arms up to back, however is pushed by the force. What the hell? I saw the punch twisting but couldn't dodge it. It was sharp and hard. Like a spear, Sasuke thought. What's wrong, Tem? I thought you wanted to fight me, Naruto says, shaking Sasuke from his thoughts. Sasuke shoots forward once again but Naruto meets him with a flurry of left jabs, forcing the Uchiha Saiyan on the defensive. He can throw punches at such speed without pulling completely back, Kakashi thought. Sasuke staggers back as one jab connects with his cheek. How? I have my Sharingan, he thought, grabbing some shuriken from his pouch. Sasuke flings the shuriken forward but Naruto dodges and grasps a kunai from his pouch to block the rest, before sending it towards Sasuke. I'll send it right back at you, Dobi, Sasuke says, angling his body to catch the kunai. Sasuke comes back up to fling the kunai right at Naruto but his breath hitches as Naruto's right fist was on a collision course for his face. Sasuke quickly channels chakra to his legs to break right to dodge the whistling right. Naruto digs his boot into the ground to change his direction and closes the gap between them. Time to end this, Naruto thought, before connecting with a right uppercut to Sasuke's chin and a downward left to knock him out. Sasuke's eye white out for a second before he collapses onto the ground with Naruto standing over him. Music ends. Hash hash. That was a bit much, Naruto thought and looks up. Sorry about that, Kakashi-sensei, he shouts. Kakashi drops down with his hand on his Hitai-8. I can't fault you for this, Naruto, but do hold back in a spar, he says, kneeling to check Sasuke. Naruto slowly nods and starts to head off to find Hinata and Haku. I will, Kakashi-sensei, but that was holding back, he says, before leaping off. Kakashi's eye widen as Sasuke starts to stir but sees his eyes swelling up. What happened? Sasuke shouts, sitting up abruptly. Where's the Dobi? Sasuke hisses, getting to his feet, but his legs give out and he collapses to all four. You should wait a few minutes. Naruto's punch damaged your equilibrium, Kakashi says. Sasuke grips the grass with a look of rage on his face. A punch. He thought. Where is he? We're not finished, Sasuke says, through gritted teeth. Kakashi sighs softly and rubs his face. Sasuke, listen to me. Naruto is stronger than he lets on. Unlike your natural talent, he's worked hard for his strength, he starts. Strength he doesn't deserve, Sasuke cuts in and Kakashi sighs. And why is that, Sasuke? Kakashi states. Sasuke gets to his feet but slightly wobbly. He's a clanless loser, he says and leaps off. Kakashi sighs for the third time and rubs his eye. No, Sasuke. He's the heir of 2 clans, one of which produced the Yondaime Hokage, he thought.